prayed every night that he would escape.
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
Boogeyman! 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 Boogeyman!
Hey everybody, it is Cyborg, and I'm joined by Temp, and we are at essentially the final stop here in our series review of Halloween. And yes, we are now going to discuss, review, breakdown, give our thoughts and opinions, everything in between of Halloween 2018. And yeah, it's been a hell of a journey, so we're finally here, what we've been building up to. Let's just jump right in. This one is probably going to be even looser than some of the other ones, where in the beginning we kind of followed a structure of trying to go through the movie, and we might try and do that here. But this is the first one I didn't take any notes on because I was seeing it for the very first time, and I was watching it in the theater as we both did. So it doesn't really, I was just trying to get lost in the movie, wasn't really focusing on taking notes. So hopefully I don't leave anything out. Between the two of us, hopefully we can touch all the major talking points. But yeah, so if we're jumping around a lot throughout the film and we're not kind of following a linear structure, that is absolutely why. So I'm just hoping I don't leave anything out. Anyways, on that note, boy, so this movie started off, right off the bat, we got, I don't even remember their names, but it was the two journalists. I think they were the investigators. They, at one point they said they were doing a podcast. One, they were investigative journalists. I don't know what their overall goal in all of this was. That's kind of one of those things that wasn't really truly explained in the movie, and really, I don't know if it necessarily needed to be, because it was really a catalyst to get us from A to B, just to get things moving. But yeah, anyways, they go to this guy and this woman. They talk to Michael. His doctor's there. We get introduced to New Loomis as well. I like that Laurie calls him the New Loomis. It's like, how meta was that? That she like, I mean, that's like just a totally fourth wall breaking moment where she's like, oh, so you're the New Loomis. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be the Loomis of this movie, because obviously we don't have Donald Pleasance anymore, unfortunately. But I thought that was kind of funny. But yes,
I was laughing in my theater because I was flashing back to the Malcolm McDowell. Yeah. No, this is New Loomis.
That's old Loomis. Yes,
I was laughing my ass off.
That's old Loomis. This is New Loomis. But yeah, so they are at the Smith's Grove, and all of them, like the several inmates or patients or whatever you call them. I think patients is the technical term. And they are out, kind of chained up outside, or not outside, but in a courtyard of sorts. And Michael's in the middle, front and center. And he's chained up, and you don't really get to see his face. And yeah, so they're trying to rile him up. It seems like they're trying to get something. They just want him to talk. They want an interview with him, anything. They're recording this experience. And he's essentially telling Michael to say something. He pulls out the mask. So it's the same mask from the original film, obviously beat up, not realistically aged, because I think there are photos of what it actually looks like these days, and it is just completely shriveled up and nasty and just halfway like gone. But anyways, so it looks pretty good. I like the mask, and we'll get into more of that as we go, but so far I'm digging it. And he's essentially yelling at Michael to say something, and that is where we go to credits. What are your thoughts on the intro scene here? The way they set everything up before the credits.
I actually like the two. I thought of them more as like YouTube celebrities. That's kind of how the angle I thought they were going at, is they were just people who made their living off view traffic and click traffic. And they did a lot of, they just had a very successful online series. The transition was awkward, but I like the idea. I love that scene. The literal scenery of just the hospital rooftop, that looks really good.
Right.
Nick Castle looked really good, just fucking Great job standing still and looking down. Gotta give him props
Do
for
we
that.
know that was Nick Castle in that shot?
I don't. I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
So it's
But no,
the
I'm not sure.
the two actors that play Michael, and I'm pretty sure it's just those two, was Nick Castle, who's the original Michael from Halloween 1, the original John Carpenter film, and he's more, he's older, he's more out of shape, so I don't think he did any of the stunt work or anything like that. He was more of, Michael standing there type of shots, I'm pretty sure. The only one scene I know for sure that he's in is he's the one where he's seen in the mirror when Laurie shoots at him later. He was the one that was in the mirror, but I don't know between Nick Castle and James Jude Courtney, I believe, is the new one. James Jude Courtney. Either way, I mean, even in the original film, multiple people played Michael, so they're kind of sticking with tradition there. And,
You are correct. It's Tony Moran plays Michael Myers in the non-mask scenes.
Okay, so then it's a completely different one. So there's 3 different Michaels in this.
But he was in the original film too, which I didn't know actually. That's interesting.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
That's wow.
Well, no, that makes sense because when they showed Michael unmasked in the original, I bet that was him because in the original, Michael unmasked was a completely different person than who was playing him under the mask. So that makes sense. Any unmasked scenes, they probably got the original actor back.
That's so fascinating. Well, props to him then. He did great. I really liked the unmasked stuff a lot. That was some of my favorite stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I think they handled it really well. But yeah, this opening scene, I agree. I thought it was good, which I was a little concerned with when seeing the trailer originally, that first trailer they put out, and the guy, one of the patients, is like laughing. He's like, like I thought it was very cheesy, silly. Like it didn't strike me as like a serious thing. I don't know. It just seemed really goofy the way they did it, but ultimately, yeah. I liked it. I liked how it was done, and I liked the cutaway when he was essentially screaming to say something. Especially coming off the Halloween 2 Rob Zombie review where Michael finally did say something and said die, and that's all he said after all of these years. I was like, are they really going to have him talk? I mean, I know this is cutting off all the sequels. It's just, this is now the direct sequel to the original Halloween. But I was like, are they actually going to have him talk after all this time? And yeah, so I was kind of curious what they would do with that. And if he did talk, what would he say? Like, I can't imagine I can't imagine a line that would work. Like, I don't know. I can't, what do you say after all that time? I don't know. But, yeah, I liked it too. And then, yeah, good opening scene. It was solid. And that led us into the credits, which, man, after all these crappy credit scenes we've gotten from several of the last few Halloweens we reviewed, damn did it feel good to go back to something more classic. Do you agree?
Yeah, it looked good too. I liked the idea. It was a little too heavy-handed. Like they're revitalizing the series.
Yeah, it's like, you might as well just have like somebody come out with shock paddles to the pumpkin and like clear, or somebody with like
an IV on the pumpkin.
Yeah, it's like a pump, like a basketball pump. It's just pumping it back up. So yeah, I do agree that it was clearly.
But I like it.
It was obvious what
subtle. It's
fine. It was obvious symbolism that the pumpkin is coming back. I mean, they played it essentially in reverse rotting. It's regaining its life and its form, and I mean, it has so many things you could take that, kind of like a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's the franchise regaining its form, going back to the basics essentially. The franchise rotted away with the last few films, but now they're revitalizing. I mean, there's so many things you could take away from that, but I agree, it was definitely obvious kind of what it was doing. I did enjoy it regardless, and I love the classic text. I love the classic score, bringing back the pumpkin, everything. Like, it's just, you can tell these guys were definitely trying, I mean, it's all over this film. They were definitely trying to recapture the original and do some things their own, but man, did they hit some of those same beats as the original without repeating. Like, it wasn't like Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 where they literally play the same scenes. I mean, we do get a little bit of that, some callback scenes where, it's very similar, but it was very, I I don't know. It wasn't like leaning on it so much trying to recapture that. And since this is supposed to be a sequel, that makes sense. So regardless, love the credits. Very like right away it already kind of got me going. I'm like, okay, this is classic Halloween. This is, and we haven't had a credit scene like this in, oh man, I don't even remember the last one with a pumpkin. I think Halloween 5, I don't even know, because you had Halloween 1, 2, 3 all had the pumpkin. 4 was the spooky kind of like the fall atmosphere, and I think that might be where it ended, but I could be wrong. And I know H2O, it's the Mr. Sandman where it stabs into the pumpkin and the mom and all the kids. I don't know. Either way, it was great.
Yeah, and the music was kind of like it was kind of like a midway point between Halloween 1 and 2, where it's still very synth heavy, more of like a traditional organ, but it's still electronic and it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a mix between like piano, which is much more like John Carpenter's used a lot of synths in his movies, but the original Halloween was more piano based, and I think they did a nice combination throughout the film of piano and synths, and definitely gave me vibes of Halloween 1, 2, and 3 if you kind of smashed them together, and then some new stuff. So I definitely got that vibe throughout the film. Okay, so moving on from the opening scene, like I said, this is where I kind of, everything starts not necessarily blending together, but I lose track of what happened when. The next thing I can remember is they go to interview Laurie. Laurie essentially doesn't want anything to do with him, but then they offer her money. She lets him in, and you can tell right away, like, I mean, this is a Laurie that's in the middle of nowhere. She's no longer living amongst civilization. She has her own compound out in a rural location. She's got gates and everything going on. She is prepared, and we get a sense of this, that she's got several locks on the door of different types. This is a Laurie that, I mean, Laurie in general, this is Sarah Connor. I mean, I can't think of any better way to describe her as this is Sarah Connor. This is somebody that was clearly affected by the events even 40 years later, and she's just been scared of, preparing for, and waiting for the day that Michael returns. And she thinks that Michael is going to target specifically her. So that's in her mind. She managed to escape, so in her mind, if Michael does escape, he's coming for her. And she even outright says that she wants him to escape because she just wants to end it. She wants to be done. Regardless, they interview her, and it quickly goes south because they just bring up like her personal life, you know, failed marriages, failed mothering, lost custody of her kid because of just the way she was raising her. We get flashbacks. It's very like militaristic. She's just training her kid to fight, to defend herself, to use weapons, everything. Not the best living conditions. She's got all sorts of stuff in her house that almost comes across like she's caging her child in, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff. But I mean, it's for a good reason. But yeah, so she loses custody of her kid, and they kind of, that rubs her the wrong way that they're talking about this, and that's when the interview quickly goes south. She tells him to get out and wants her money. So, which we do later see that she gives the money to her granddaughter anyways. So it wasn't about the money for her. She just gave it away. So anyways, I guess really the big talking point, not necessarily the interview, but Laurie. I mean, we are introduced to Laurie in this movie now, and we get a sense of who she is, what she's about, and your thoughts on Laurie so far.
I'm kind of mixed on the whole like sort of militia type home like barricade. I think it makes sense, and I think it fits the character, but I don't know. They kind of shit on Laurie in a way in this movie. They make her out to be really unstable, and she is. I mean, it's all grounded, but how much I enjoyed watching it, like the alcoholism and the crying and the breakdown at the restaurant. I don't know how much you want to cover that, but a lot of that stuff I was like, this is just really uncomfortable. This is just super uncomfortable. And I would not have taken this angle. I would have, this is one of the few things I think H2O did a little better. And this movie actually has a weird amount of similarities to H2O. This movie, it's crazy how much this movie borrows H2O. It does a lot of its own thing with the podcasters and Michael. Michael's very different in this movie, but I feel like I would have liked it in the middle. I definitely don't want vanilla school teacher Laurie, but I don't know if I want like broken down Walking Dead Laurie either. Yeah, it just it was just very uncomfortable for me, and I feel like it's not really the fucking shelter that does it that does the real damage to the viewing experience. It's just the awkward relationship she has with her family, but we'll get to that. But overall, it looks good. It's fine. The podcast, I would have done something different with the podcaster scene. I would have, instead of having them be complete dicks, have them be completely exploitive. I don't know. I would have used that more as a better exposition vehicle, but it's good. But we'll get more into Laurie later. I'm not. There are some things about Laurie that kind of didn't work for me that we'll delve in time.
I mean, I guess I just disagree with most of that. I do see some of the things you're saying, and understand where you're coming from. The trailers gave away, not really gave away, but I mean, they already painted a picture of what Laurie was going to be to a sense, not necessarily to the extreme that she is in the movie. We didn't know that she lost custody of her kid, or, that she's the crazy old lady that even her kid and granddaughter don't really know what to do with because she acts out the way she does. But I don't know. I kind of like the way she is because, much like Sarah Connor, in the sense that she's right. Like, at the end of the day, she was right. She was right to feel paranoid. She was right to, for all these years, prepare. And because I mean, at the end of the day, it saved them, and it saved not only her life, it saved her daughter's life and her granddaughter's life. Had they not had that training and that preparedness, and Laurie not have her huge elaborate setup, it's very likely that this could have ended in a much worse note for all of them. So yeah, I don't know. I guess she's the crazy lady that's saying, we're all doomed if you don't listen to me. And that's, in a lot of ways, she's Loomis of this movie. And we'll kind of, like, the actual Loomis. As I was watching the film, I'm like, she's Donald Pleasance in this movie. She's the one that's telling everybody, this is Michael Myers. Let's not treat him like he's nothing, and we should have absolutely every reason to fear him and treat him as more than just your usual psychopath. This is beyond that, and we should prepare for it. So let's get all the kids off the street. Let's get everybody safe in your, like, she's the one that takes action, and she's like trying to give people guns and everything to defend themselves. In my opinion, she is absolutely Loomis more than Loomis's protege, which we'll talk about him in due time. But yeah, that's, to me.
And she's fine in all those scenes. In those scenes, she's okay. But the first 40 minutes of this movie is just like telephone calls and bad restaurant scenes and drinking by herself in the car. That's the stuff I wasn't feeling. And is it grounded? Yes. Is it enjoyable? No. It works later. Like, later on, it's great. Like, I'm cool with that. That version of Laurie makes sense in that context. Before that, though, it was just really unpleasant. So it makes sense, but is it a good viewing experience, though, I guess?
Not to, like, it shouldn't be such extremes, but when we just got done watching Laurie Strode that only, 2 years later was like, die you fucking bitch, and trying to, like, fantasizing about killing her best friend and flipping out on everybody that was even around her and just being a total bitch the entire movie. At least the version I watched. It's like, this is a breath of fresh air. Like, to me, this is a Laurie that, even though, yeah, she does have her, issues. She definitely has a lot of issues right now in this movie. All the craziness that she does. She is, like I said, she's got a lot of psychological baggage there. But man, does she handle it much more appropriately to what I would imagine that actually amount to, versus, and this is 40 years of it, so I get that, but I don't know. I guess I wasn't uncomfortable by all those things, and I've dealt with crazy family members, and she's not far off from what I've experienced. Trust
No,
me.
that is
Like,
I know that feeling as
like
well. Yeah.
trust me, I've had moments at family dinners and family get-togethers and holiday get-togethers where it's like there's just that one or two family members that always seem to break down or always cause a scene or always, you know, have those moments, and you're like, come on, you gotta get it together, you know, like. But no, that's so she felt realistic to me, and it may not have been super comfortable to watch, but I think it was necessary to a degree to set up. We need to understand who she really is, and that she's not this perfect character. She has a lot of faults about her, and you know, maybe she wasn't fit to raise her kid, and we need to see why. You know, we need to see that emotional instability and psychological instability, and I thought that was good. I thought I didn't feel like it went on too long. I felt like it went on just enough. I didn't think they overstepped it, but you know, either way, we can move on.
I feel like the house does. I feel like the house tells the whole story. Once you realize that the kitchen island moves, like that's kind of like, okay, I get it. She's crazy. But yeah, well, you're right. Well, we're gonna get a lot into this later too. So.
Sure.
There's other parts I don't want to stick my feet in just yet, because we'll get more in depth on that stuff soon.
Okay, so we are introduced to Laurie, and then really the next major scene here is, I mean, we know her. We get introduced to her family. Her dad's not Laurie's dad, but let's cut to the actual family, because Laurie isn't the. I mean, she's the main character, but you know, there's a lot of several supporting characters that have quite a few of their own scenes. So Laurie's daughter is married, and she has a kid, which would be Laurie's granddaughter. And I forget his name at this point, but her dad, or I guess the dad, Laurie's daughter, and her granddaughter, they seem like such a normal family. Like, not in a, you know, well, what did you have today, dear? And, you know, like, it's not like cheesy normal. It's not like sitcom, like, you know, 70s or 80s sitcom type of normal. Not the Brady Bunch here. But it's also not Rob Zombie, you know, like, it's not even close to anything like that.
Yeah,
it was very much more down to earth, people that are just realistic. You know, there's humor, there's teasing, there's goofiness, dad being like goofy and doing all sorts of weird things and saying weird things in a goofy way. But yeah, what'd you think of the family just in these first few scenes that we see them in, just interacting as a family? The dad's laying mouse traps, and he accidentally gets peanut butter on his penis, and then the granddaughter is just being herself. I don't know.
You see, ultimately, I like the mother. I think that's going to be everyone's response. But they really put her in a negative light, and that she doesn't really shed that shadow until like an hour and 20 minutes into the movie. They really kind of shit on the mother figure in this movie. But I liked her later, but I don't like her in this scene because it's very obvious she's lying. This is one of my pet peeves. They purposely wrote the father to be chauvinistic and like typical ignorant white dad, and I was like, come on. Like,
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Well, there's a theme here for me. Like, a lot of these characters were done in a much more realistic tone than I feel like this franchise is used to. There's usually a lot of extremes characters. I mean, we've had cops that are like literally playing like slide whistles as the cops are moving around. And we've had trailer park trash that are talking to each other in a way that you probably would never actually hear. You've had the Goody Two-Shoes family, Family Ties family. I mean, we've had a little bit of everything. I thought they were honestly one of the most normal and well-written in the sense that a lot of their lines I thought were like actual dialogues that you would hear a normal family deliver. I don't know. I liked their little interplay between them.
I think for me, the one that was just grating when he was talking about peyote with the part Native American boyfriend, I was like, oh my God, talk about fucking peyote.
I could see that, dude. Like, I could see just somebody's dad. I don't know, like, that's such a dad thing to do. Like, getting high and, smoking the weed and the peyote. Like, dads just have an awkward way of delivering, like, normal things. They have a very awkward way of saying things that make everybody, like, uncomfortable and embarrassed. Like, you're supposed to feel that way.
I love me some dad jokes. I'm a fan. Make no mistake. But yeah, I don't know. It felt a little heavy-handed, but other than that, they're fine. And the dad does have like they give him a dignified end. Like I mean, he's dead. This guy is good as dead. But yeah, I mean, he didn't. It wasn't like something out of a Roland Emmerich film. He is the worst about this stuff. Like the whole straw man, shitty person, stepfather, boyfriend. Oh my god. He actually got better over the years, but man, is he bad about that stuff. But yeah, they're fine. They're for the Cameron, the boyfriend. I did not like him, but you're not supposed to like him.
Right.
So.
Yep. He was definitely the unlikable character of the group for sure.
And I actually don't know why we're supposed to not like him, because I went to the bathroom during the party scene. When I came back, they were arguing, so I don't even know what happened.
Oh, so when she comes back from trying to answer her phone, so she answers her phone, and her friend that was babysitting the little kid was trying to get her to come over or whatever later. And so when she's done answering her phone, she goes back to find him. He said his name was Cameron. I'm horrible at remembering names on these movies unless I watch them multiple times.
It was Cameron.
Either way, the dude at the party that was dressed like Bonnie, so they did a little role reversal. So he was Bonnie. Anyways, that dude, when she came back and she was looking all over for him, when she finally finds him, like, he was still at the party and, on the dance floor or whatever, but when she finally finds him, it was as, like, he was kissing some girl. So it was one of those, it was one of those where it was like a quick kiss that they did, and then she just happened to catch it, and then he realizes that she caught it, and then he tried to play off like, oh, she was just talking, like, she just said something to me in my ear and all sorts of shit, but no, he was definitely kissing her. So.
Okay, this is another frustrating scene for me. So he throws her phone into the vanilla pudding, right?
Yeah.
No, he throws her phone into the vanilla pudding. Like, it's ruined, and I'm like, phones are fairly liquid resilient. You could probably just wipe that off. No, it's gone. You never see that phone again. That phone is supposedly done. There's a perfectly good phone in a bowl of pudding right now. It's like, just take it out.
I don't think that was the point. I think it was because I agree with you. That's the thing I immediately thought, because it was even still making noises when it was in the pudding. So it was clearly still in working condition. If she would have just quickly fished that out and wiped it off, I think she could have salvaged it. But I think it was more of she wasn't going to stoop to that level. She wasn't going to be like, oh, now I'm going to look stupid pulling my phone out of this. She wanted him to do it. And even then, when she waited after like 10 seconds and he didn't do it, like, then it was you know what, fuck this. I don't need this shit. She'll either go buy a new phone or she'll get him to buy her new phone. At that point, she just didn't want anything to do with him. So I think that was kind of what they were conveying, is she didn't. I mean, how stupid would you feel? Like, I would be pissed, first of all. I wouldn't just, like, walk away. But the way they were trying to make this interaction go, she clearly was just like, I'm done with this. Well, she says just outright, I'm done. Like, she wasn't going to go make herself look really dumb trying to wipe. Like, you would look absolutely... Let's be clear here. If you went over to a bowl of pudding and had to pull your own phone out, even though you didn't put it in there, but just... how dumb you would look grabbing that phone out of a pudding bowl and then having to wipe that down. You would look really stupid. Let's be honest here.
Well, I mean, two things. First of all, I would have come back. I would have held my ground. Then 10 minutes later, I would have come back and fished out my phone.
At that point, it might be gone, though. Like, that would have seeped into all the holes. All of the holes.
It's like a gelatin texture. I think it would have been fine. Well, in theory, we would have gotten a very different ending if she grabbed the phone. If she had wiped off the pudding, it would have been a fairly... Man, who just has a giant bowl of pudding anyway? Like, I've seen, like...
Yeah, it should have been Punch, but... Yeah.
That would have made a lot more sense, because pudding is just fucking gross. But yeah, I don't know. So for me personally, I think they did it because the movie, it does heavily affect the plot from there forward. If she had her phone with her, very different ending, or at least a very different sequence of events. So.
It was a nice way. I mean, it's that old, it's what horror movies have to deal with these days, because back, 70s or whatever, 80s, you didn't have cell phones you needed to deal with. So if the character couldn't make it to a phone, or the phone line was cut, boom, that's all you needed. Now it's like everybody has a cell phone. So it's like,
Yeah, it's problematic.
how do you explain why this character can't get the communication they need in that moment to be safe, or to get to safety easier? So I thought, all in all, I was fine with the way they wrote that phone out of the movie. Like, they killed that phone off. I get, it was well done. I mean, let's be honest, that's the only reason they got in a fight to begin with. It was a story plot device to get that phone into that pudding hole, so that way she would then, have to take the long way home, so to speak.
I mean, I can only see it from my perspective. I would have fisted the pudding. That's what it's just me. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised she didn't, but here we are. I feel like we gave that way more conversation.
It's important. I think it's very important. But yes, anyway.
We give, just in this window of phone and pudding interaction, let's rate this. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so moving on. So she's done. I think that guy's out of the movie for the rest of the movie, right? I don't think
we never see him again.
Yeah. So he's out there somewhere. He's still out there. No, so anyways, going from there, we get her leaving the party, and at this point, like, Michael's out. We skipped ahead, like, way ahead to that party, but either way. So what happens before then, because we still got to get Michael getting all of his stuff back earlier in the day. So I thought this was actually well done. So they were going to transfer Michael, which is never a good idea and has never worked well in this franchise.
Especially on the 31st of October. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, what timing? So they transfer Michael on a bus with other inmates, and his doctor that we were introduced to, who basically took up in Loomis's place after Loomis passed away. They didn't explain when Loomis passed away, but we know Donald Pleasant, obviously, in real life, died. So they wanted a doctor character in this film. So he gets on the bus to go with, and they're doing this at night. Once again, not a good idea to do all this at night, but it's the movie. So they're going to do this, and doctor gets on the bus because he says, I don't want to leave Michael, like, he's still my patient until I hand him off, so he wants to see it through. Basically, he had explained earlier in the film that he wants to see Michael put down himself. Like, he wants to be there, and then once they do put Michael down, he wants, like, lethal injection, he said. He wants him to get put to sleep, and then he wants to burn the body. Like, he wants to see it for himself. So that is his explanation. So he gets on the bus. Laurie is watching the bus leave, but then that's where she has a dinner as well, so that's where it was a little confusing there for a second. But I guess she just wanted to see that he got on the bus, because then next thing we know, she's at the dinner with her family, and that's where she has the breakdown, like you had mentioned, where she makes the giant scene and leaves the dinner shortly after arriving. Like, that was a very short dinner for her. And and she gets a nice moment with her granddaughter. That is one moment in that little bunch that I did really like, is when she has her freak out, because her daughter's just written her off, basically. She doesn't trust her at this point, but her granddaughter seems like she has still love for Laurie, much like grandchildren. Obviously, if they're not the ones that dealt with that firsthand, they're going to be a little bit more forgiving than Laurie's daughter, which her daughter's name is Karen, I believe. So anyways,
yes, that's right.
So
it is Karen.
Okay, just so we can use names, so I stop having to say daughter all the time. So Karen, anyways, Karen's written her off, but the granddaughter, what's the granddaughter's name? It's like Jillian, or do you remember?
I'll have it in a minute.
Yeah, let's look it
Allison
up.
is
Allison,
her name.
That was close. So Allison, Jillian,
yeah, same
difference. Thing. Yeah, there's some L's in there. So Allison walks out, and then she essentially comforts Laurie, which I thought was really effective scene. I did like that, and they're kind of building up the bond there. So Michael how he gets his stuff is the two podcasters, whatever they are, investigators. They go to a rest stop or a gas station, or it's like a gas station mixed with a mechanic area. And as they are getting stuff, the female, she goes in to use the bathroom. And this was a fantastic scene. And there's a lot of good scenes, in my opinion, throughout this film. Well done shots that very like ring true and are faithful to the original. So as he goes in to talk to the guy, it was either him or her, I can't remember. So when they're talking to the clerk to ask where the bathroom is or ask some question, I think it's her. So when she goes in,
she goes to the restroom while he stays with the car initially. I know that.
Right. So we see Michael sneak off in the background, first of all, which is great. So we see his car pull up, like the truck that he was driving up. Damn it, we need to go back even further because we forgot the whole bus crash scene. So the bus.
We can do that after because.
Okay. So
yeah,
they're at the.
we could, yeah.
Yeah. So they're at the mechanic area, whatever. So they go and we see Michael sneak off in the background because you can see him in white. But once again, they don't highlight that he's there, and that's what is key to me. What's important to me is they don't put a bunch of they don't like make a big sound effect and then like, here's Michael. It's like you see that same truck or Jeep or whatever in the background, and then you see a man dressed in all white, which is what his uniform looked like, just kind of walk away. So we see that, and then even somebody in the car kind of like, because the guy podcaster's looking at some other person that's parked there, and she's like giving him the stink eye, and she's like, trying to turn his attention to the side with her eyes, but he doesn't look. He doesn't know what the hell she's doing, so he just gives her a peace sign. He's like, hey. Anyways, so she goes to the bathroom. He eventually goes to the clerk, but I think when she's in the bathroom, or when she is in talking to the clerk, I don't know if you even caught this because it's so subtle, but in the background, this tiny little window, you see just Michael just unloading on the mechanic. Like, you don't even really know what he's doing other than he is beating something to death. So that explains how he gets his coveralls and boots, which I loved because it was so subtle. We don't need to see, this is the 1,000th time we've seen Michael get his uniform, so we don't need to see that really, but I love that it was subtly in the background. And so she's in the bathroom. This scene was great with her in the bathroom. So she checks the first couple stalls. They're gross, so she goes to the third. She sets up shop to do her thing, and then all of a sudden we hear somebody come into the bathroom. And we know it's Michael just based on what we just witnessed. So checks the first stall, checks the second stall. All of a sudden he arrives at her stall. Then he stops because she kind of says, occupied or whatever. There's someone in here. So it's like the Joe Grizzly scene all over again. And then kind of mixed with Joe Grizzly and the H2O scene where the woman and her kid are in the bathroom. It's called back to both of those, in my opinion. And he kind of like goes away, but he stays in the bathroom. And now he's just like standing in front of the front stall again, which is just eerie. Like, this movie was not scary. This movie was very much a suspense thriller, in my opinion. But anyway, so he toys with her. So he goes away, then he comes back, and then he drops the teeth down, and she's wondering what the hell is going on. And then she realizes shit's hit the fan. So, yeah, that's when she starts freaking out. She makes a huge scene, starts screaming when Michael's trying to essentially pull her and kill her. And then the dude podcaster comes in. We saw that the clerk died, so Michael already got to him. Dude podcaster comes in, tries to save her. He ends up getting his face smashed against the wall repeatedly, and then repeatedly against the door. Like, that was brutal. And then he gets his face smashed, but not to the point where, like, I don't know, his face was impacted or his just brains hanging out, but he gets his face smashed up pretty good. He's still alive. He gets thrown all over the place. Then Michael goes for her, chokes her out, breaks her neck, and then that's that. What'd you think of this whole setup and scene?
It's the most gruesome scene in the movie, I think. I can't think of anything that was more gruesome than this. Maybe the head stomp was more gruesome.
Yeah, that was the only thing I could think of. But yeah, it was pretty brutal.
But the head stomp was like a strawberry slushy.
Yeah.
This scene was brutal because like the guy's mouth was still like halfway on the table, but there wasn't much mouth left. So it was very realistic looking.
Yeah.
At the counter scene or the counter part of the the set. And in a way, I like this because if they do have to go the sequel route, then in theory, this podcaster can still be alive because it shows him like trying to. He's looking at Michael kill her, and then he kind of drifts out of consciousness.
Yeah,
So
we
like,
don't. Yeah, we don't really know for sure his fate.
it would be a grave mistake to make a sequel and not put this guy back in because I really feel like you don't want that disconnect. You don't want the next one to feel like another reboot. You really want to have some carryover.
Sure.
Yeah, my only problem with this scene is I feel like it happened a little too early. I mean, it has to because it's the only way you can get the mask and the jumpsuit. But
Right.
man, I would have liked to have spent more time with these podcasters. I feel like they weren't. I wasn't blown away, but I feel like there was something they could have done with them. But other than that, it's a good scene. And it happens fairly early too. But yes,
I was happy they got it away, like out of the way early, because this is the one thing in the trailer that I knew their fate, because in the trailer you flat out see him drop the teeth. You know it's her in the stall. Like, they show her clear as day in the trailer that that's her, so you know she's screwed at that point. There's no way she's getting out alive when she's doing that. In the trailer, you can see that Michael's smashing the other dude's head into the stall door. So it was so quick, but it was noticeable in the trailer for me anyways. So I knew these two characters were screwed. And when I know something in the trailer, I would much rather they get it away as soon as possible, because then the one thing I hate going into movies that I've seen trailers for is when they show scenes from the end of the movie. Because then it's like, when you see a character in the trailer do something specific, you know they're going to live until that thing happens in the movie. You ever experienced that?
yeah. Well, that's the problem. Like, I've never read Game of Thrones, but I want to. But my friends will talk about like book 6, and they'll talk about characters. I'm like, guys, if you tell me that character's in book 6, that means I know they live in book 1, 2, 3, 4, what, and so on.
Exactly.
I don't even know if there are 6 books, but it drives me nuts.
It takes the suspense away, because no longer are you on the edge of your seat wondering, are they going to make it out of this? It's like, there's more scenes with them in the in the trailer. They make it out of this. So that's what always bothers me with trailers. So that's why I was happy to have these characters. Plus, I didn't feel too attached with them. I thought they were an interesting plot device to get to the mask and all that. I would much rather have these podcasters or whatever they were, investigators, do their thing and then lead to the mask than Michael goes home and gets his mask under the floorboard that he hid 40 years ago. Like, I'd much rather it be the way it was in the film. I thought a lot of the connected dots were done as best naturally as you probably could have done. And we talked about with the phone and whatnot, kind of the way they did a lot of these things wasn't always amazing, but I thought a lot of it at least was, okay, that works for me. Like, at the very least, a lot of it was, yeah, that makes sense. I can buy that. Like, so that's what they were to me here. And yeah, so no, I enjoyed this. I thought it was brutal. I've talked about brutal Michael Myers before, but then it's like, I thought about it, and when he kills Judith, I mean, I like that they replayed that scene in the movie and they like legitimately just use the same footage. So when he kills Judith, he does stab her several times. So it's not completely out of the ordinary for Michael to be that brutal, even though the original Halloween movie had him pretty quickly deal with his foes. So I don't know. It wasn't Rob Zombie brutality, but it was, I thought it was shot and done well to where it didn't feel completely over the top. But I like this just because, and we get more of this throughout the film, this was Michael Myers playing tricks on people again. I loved how much he toys with her in the stalls, and that sounded really weird, but yeah. So when she's in the bathroom or whatever, in one of the stalls, like, he goes to her door, he kind of messes with it, trying to get in, and then he goes back to one of the other stall doors. She is completely freaked out. They build up the tension and the suspense. I loved that aspect. And then not only that, he drops the teeth. Like, he uses that as a scare tactic, and that is Michael Myers. We're talking about the guy in the original who put his own sister's gravestone on the bed, next to Annie's dead body, or I think it was Annie in that bed. And he dresses like Paul or whatever underneath the sheet to scare Linda. It's like, this is Michael Myers plays tricks on people. He toys with people. He stalks his prey. He takes his time and enjoys it. This is we got a lot of that here, and this bathroom scene was one of them. I thought it was great suspense. I loved it. So for a scene that I knew pretty much what the fate of these characters were going to be and how, I thought it was really well done, and I was still I was caught up with the tension and how they shot it. So
Well, it is worth noting that I never saw the first trailer. Thank heavens. I'm glad I did not see the first trailer. I saw the second one only. And even the bathroom scene, it's in the second trailer, but I didn't recognize the actress from the trailer when it
sure.
happened. So I knew that bathroom scene was coming. I didn't know it was the podcaster in the stall. So I enjoyed it a lot more because of that. But I think the brutality it just fits the setting. I mean, the dude was coming at him with I think it was a crowbar.
Oh man, he just whacks Michael right up the side of the head with that crowbar, and Michael just flat out shrugs it off. I loved it. Like,
just made him mad, yeah.
I mean, we'll go deep dive into Michael because there's a lot to talk about with Michael. Because, like you said, he is very different in this film in a good way, in my opinion. But we'll get to that. But yeah, this is a Michael that just he's supernatural in the amount of abuse he takes, but he's not. I don't know. It's just interesting how they did that. Like, it's like he's only, when he gets hurt, he only, like, it's reflexes, like how his body would normally, oh, I just got whacked upside the head, my head's gonna move to the side and whatnot, but it hardly phases him. I love that. I just imagine Michael for these 40 years just smashing his head up against the wall to, like, abuse his body to the point where it can no longer feel anything and where he doesn't feel pain. And all of these things where he's just trained for the period where he can do this again.
Yeah, it's that, like I said, my favorite stuff was Michael just being Michael in the asylum. I just thought that stuff was really enjoyable. It feels like Michael. Like it was easy for me to put my trust in the movie that was Michael Myers, and he did all the stuff he did in 1978.
Yes.
It was never a struggle to suspend belief in.
No, it really truly does feel like a sequel to the original. They definitely have captured that. Moving on from the bathroom stuff, so now we have Michael with his mask, which I love that scene where he gets it from the trunk of the car. It looked like a heist movie or something. Like, it's broad daylight, and Michael Myers is like, I got my mask on, let's do this, boys. Like
the Legend of Zelda fucking da-na-na-na.
Yeah, exactly. It's not often you see Michael Myers just slowly in broad daylight pull something out of a trunk and put his mask on. Like, I just thought it was great. But
I liked it.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Well, I guess he has done that a lot in the franchise with, like, the hardware stores and whatnot. But yeah, so moving on from there, and that's where we get kind of caught back up where we go to the bus crash scene, which obviously was before that, and we see a boy and his dad come across Michael. And so it actually wasn't on Halloween when they transferred him then. It had to have been the 30th, right? Because a whole day passed.
Yes, it would have been yeah.
So they were being safe. Hey, there's a difference between the they were making sure. No way would we do it on the 31st, but the 30th, now that's...
I would have had a 30-day buffer. That's just me.
Yeah,
I'm a cautious man.
They were not, apparently, so... Yeah, so we get the bus crash scene, a boy and his dad. They're driving on the road, and they come across the crashed bus along with a bunch of, patients wandering the street. The dad leaves, and we don't really know what happens to him. The boy eventually gets out to go look for his dad, and he goes to look in the bus even. He finds the dead cop, I believe, and the dead cop tells him to run, but the boy says, no, I need to find my dad. So he goes up to the bus, and all of a sudden the doctor jumps out from, like, one of the back rows, and he goes, don't shoot, but he immediately, like, gets shot. Usually when you jump out and surprise somebody in a very tense situation, it doesn't matter if you say don't shoot. If you just pop out, you're gonna get shot. So yeah, not the best idea for the doctor. Well, anyways, he gets shot in, like, the shoulder area, and so we're not really sure what's gonna happen with him. And then the boy quickly runs back and gets into the truck and was going to get the hell out of there, but Michael chokes him out. Thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to kill the kid.
I was.
Which made me nervous when they killed the kid. Because not that I don't mind the kid dying. And to be fair, it's fairly tame how they kill him.
And was he a kid? Yeah, but we're talking more like
I mean, he was
12
like
or
8th grade.
yeah, he's probably like
Yeah.
12 or 13. It wasn't like he was killing a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or something. Not that there's like this, like this is acceptable, this is not. But they do toy with that. Boy, do they tease it in this movie, and we will get to that scene.
That's
But-
my favorite scene in the movie, actually.
Oh,
but
it's
yeah.
good. It is a good one. But yeah, so he kills the kid, which yeah, it does make sense. I mean, there was no. If you would have just ooga booga booga and the kid runs off, like I wouldn't have liked that. That to me is pulling punches too much. There is that line that I don't want to see Michael Myers cross, and we will get to that. But the ooga booga booga method would not have worked for me. I mean, I guess if he runs off into the dark, sure, but still, I liked what they did because it definitely. The fact that he killed the kid is like, this is a Michael that is not fucking around. And if boy does this movie get across anything, it is that Michael is not fucking around.
He's very powerful in this movie. Like, he does a lot. He basically takes out a neighborhood. He's very-
Yeah, I mean, like, he is a train that does not stop. And you better hope your house is not on that block. Like,
yeah, he's good
No
at what he
kidding.
does. I mean, what,
no kidding at all. Like, this guy is like, fucking, he's got like the mapped out like a blueprint of the whole damn neighborhood in his mind.
it
He knows
almost
every
like a nod
way.
to part 4 where he took out the police department
Yes.
because
But-
he's one of the best, John.
But this
you
time
know?
we get to see it. That's the cool part. Is like we actually get to see Michael just like this unstoppable force that is just everywhere. Like it was crazy. So anyway,
The
so
scene-
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this. I don't know when to talk about this. Whether we want to talk about it now or because obviously we're going to get to the doctor way more. But
Yes.
maybe just give me a yes or no on this. Did the doctor? Does it imply the doctor caused the car wreck
Yes.
or the bus wreck?
I
Okay,
was
that's-
I was talking to my wife on the way home, and that is exactly what my thought was. Is I'm pretty sure that is what they didn't come right out and say it, which I like because that would have been really like, aha, I'm the one that did all this, haha. Like they implied a lot of things throughout this film that I think makes it more clever and more layered by doing so, by not just coming right out and treating you like a baby. There's a lot of you have to put things together in your own mind, and we'll definitely talk about that. So
Indeed.
continuing on, so we get that scene. So now Michael has the truck, and that's where we, flash forward to the next day, and all that stuff happens with the podcasters. So yeah, leaving the podcast and everything. Now Michael's unleashed. He's got everything he needs. He's got his mask back. He's got his coveralls, boots, everything. So now we cut forward to Halloween night. Man, whew. This guy, like I said, he is just an unstoppable force. So oh boy, where to begin? So I'm trying to like remember the events, but because there's some good stuff here. So we get the long shot from the trailer where he bumps into the kids. Then he goes to the house. He takes out the woman with the hammer that he grabs from the shed. Then he grabs the knife. Like there's such a good chain of events. This is not a Michael Myers that's teleporting all over the place. This was really well done, explaining how he gets from A to B to C. And that's really important because the whole ending of the movie, had they just jumped to that, I feel like it would have been so unnatural and forced. But man, they really do explain how he gets everywhere he goes. And that I love the fact that, so we dropped the whole brother and sister angle. We knew that going in, that's no longer going to be a thing. They're writing that off because that was never in the original. That was never the plan. So now that's no more. Michael really was just the boogeyman, and the ones that he killed were just unlucky that they happened to be the ones that he came across. And boy, do they drive that point home in this film, which I loved because this is the Michael I want. I want an unstoppable force that just kills anything and everything that he comes across pretty much. And that's it. Like house to house to house. He's just going. Like to me, that's fantastic. So he does that. He kills that lady, immediately keeps going, goes across to the next house, kills the girl right in front of the window, or the lady right in front of the window, which I thought that was brutal. He just slams her face down and then stabs her through the back of the neck. Like that was just quick and fun. Feel free to jump in at any point and cut me off because
Well, I
I'm
mean,
just gonna.
This movie did a great job of explaining better than any other Halloween why he attacks on Halloween. It's not because of Stonehenge. It's just because if you're going to go on a rampage, nothing's going to camouflage the screams,
Yes.
the walking, the crowd. It just, from a serial killer perspective, it just makes so much sense. Now, then call Michael a serial killer. I don't know if that's definitionally accurate, but regardless, though, it's so logical, and it's I don't want to say a fantastic method, but it's such a sound method for someone who wants to do as much damage as possible.
It's so
It was very
clever.
smart to write it
It's
that way.
so damn clever. Like, he blends in so well. And I mean, it makes sense. It also explains, why does he wear the mask, you know? If he was just some creepy old guy wandering the streets on Halloween with a knife, you'd start to raise questions. But when you put that mask on him, he could be any age. He could just be some big kid or some father that lost, you know, his child somewhere along the way when they're trick-or-treating. Or he could be one of the fathers of the kids trick-or-treating. You can get away with so much when you are dressed up like that on Halloween. And it is a really good setup. And so he keeps going, continuing to rampage. And meanwhile, this is when they're at the party and going crazy, and the pudding punch bowl and all that crap is going on with the kids. Laurie's freaking out, trying to, you know, get Karen and her husband to take her seriously. And this is when they know Michael's on the loose, and they're trying to find out where he is in Haddonfield. So he's going house to house. So he kills them. Once again, just goes out to the street. He continues doing his thing. The next kind of scene we're talking about is, he kills that mom, and then, because the second house he hits, that's the one with the crying baby, right?
Yes.
Or maybe it was the first one. It was the first one or second one, either way.
No, you're right. It's the first one because it's the long shot.
Yes.
It's the trailer. So you're right. It is the first.
Okay, so he goes in there, and all of a sudden, everyone's probably feeling the exact same way. When you hear that baby cry, we've already established that he killed the kid, and that's why it's important that he does, because we are establishing a character that seemingly has no limits. He doesn't even think about what he's doing. He is a literal killing machine. Like, it's as if there's no rhyme or reason other than, oh, I heard this person scream, I'm gonna go to the next house. He is literally like a trick-or-treater, right? So he's going house to house. It's like, these are the things, the layers of this, like the way this is being told, that I really appreciate. It just makes you think. Like, no longer do you have to think, why is he doing what he's doing? It's clear why he's doing what he's doing. There is no reason. He's going house to house, taking everybody out in his path, and he will not stop until he is stopped. So, great stuff. So anyways, we hear a baby cry after the first woman's taken out, and we're like, oh crap, what's gonna happen? Please don't kill the baby. That's what I'm sure everybody's thinking.
Yeah, this would have been an instant F if he killed the baby. It would have been an F. I might have just left the theater. I might have just cashed out with my waitress. This may have been a one-man show. But yeah. I don't know. I like the scene, so I'll let you go on.
No, I know. I can't agree with that, but I get where you're coming from, and I did not want to see that happen. At the work, like, at best, or at worst, I guess, is just please cut away. Like, I don't want to even know. Like, leave it ambiguous, I guess. I would not want to actually see him go up with a knife and end a kid or a baby or anything like that. I completely agree. That would have been disgusting, but I could see them, like, cutting away and no more crying baby. But as disturbing as that is. But no, actually what happens is he goes up, and then I don't know if he got distracted by noise. I don't think so. I think he legitimately just he just decided not to kill that baby, which didn't seem random because he didn't kill his baby sister in the first one either. So, yeah. Maybe he just doesn't kill babies. It's a layer to the character. It's kind of like the Jason. They always haven't stuck with it, or they haven't always stuck with it, I should say. But I always like the idea that Jason doesn't kill kids because he died when he was a kid. So he sees kids more as an innocent rather than the teenagers and adults that led to him being killed. So yeah, I like that with Jason. It adds layers to the character, that there are lines that they won't cross. Like, in their own mind, they feel justified in killing these people, but not this. Like, to me, it's important to establish something like that. And I do like it for Michael here that he has no reason to kill the baby. Like, there's no reason for him to kill in general, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a baby. Like,
I thought about this a lot, like a lot. And I have two theories on this. One is that, and this is one I don't think this is correct, but a lot of people are going to jump to this conclusion. They're going to take more of the Predator 2 approach, where Michael's like, I can't kill this baby. This baby's not ripe yet. I got to kill it in 10 years.
I'll see you in 10 years.
Yeah. Mark my word, baby. Man, thank God that baby wasn't wearing a dog costume. That would have been bad.
Hey, no dead dogs in this movie.
Yeah, good shit.
That's already an up in the rating.
I am a fan. So that's theory number one. Theory number two is, and this is a common theory with a lot of mental illnesses. Like a common problem in philosophy is perception of minds. How do you know that other people have minds? Well, you don't. They have the same mechanical mechanisms and responses that you have, so you assume they have minds. But there are genuine mental illnesses where people have trouble perceiving minds. So if he's truly, that far gone, and his psychology has, just become so warped and twisted, he may not perceive a person there because it's just his mind can't connect the wires anymore. And that's maybe why he targets adults, young adults, teens. They're psychologically invisible to him. I don't know if that's true either. What I would like to think is there's something even more, I don't want to say sentimental, but deeper than that, almost ritualistic. As long as it's not Stonehenge, of course, but something deeper going on. Like that would be the most interesting outcome to me, where it's not really clear, but I like a Michael with rules. I think that's the most interesting outcome. I don't know how to write that. And I don't know if you need to write that, at least on this movie. In a sequel, yes, you need to write that, but not here. I think it's fine. That was always my problem with the old movies, is they thought they can have the same set of rules for 6 movies without ever explaining them.
Sure.
So yeah, in this movie, it's fine. I like theory number 3. He has rules. We don't know what they are yet. The other two
are you saying
there.
roles? Like
rules? No,
okay,
RUL, yes.
Gotcha.
So that's more interesting to me. But either one of them are honestly fine. Like the ripe baby theory is not the smartest thing in the world, but all 3 are better than baby stabbing. I don't like that at all. So
yeah, I mean, it's what I've said. I mean, with these characters, Michael, Jason, Freddy, it's kind of like the character that you love to hate, in that there's a reason why these characters are icons and why they've stood the test of time, and why after all of these years, 40 years later, they're still making a movie and they're still making a ton of money. You have fans of the character, people that dress up, that spend like countless amount of hours on forum boards talking about them, loving everything about the franchise, etc. There's a reason why you can get in, like, what about a killer? Like, because in real life, there's nothing, at least to me, enjoyable about a killer. It's disgusting. I don't even like thinking about it. That's why I don't like watching the news or anything like that, because that's real life. That's real people being harmed. But I don't know what about these characters that I find personally enjoyment in. I enjoy watching Halloween, and I enjoy seeing the kills and so on and so forth. But there are lines that you don't want to see. It's like, just like I don't want to see Jason hack up a bunch of kids. I don't want to see Michael stab a baby or, harm animals, etc. Just like you don't want to really see Freddy molest a child or anything. It's like, so there are definite lines that characters can cross where they go from loving hating them to just outright hating them, and not like wanting anything. Like how you said you would walk out of the movie, is because then it's going beyond an enjoyable hate or an enjoyable, like, scary experience or whatever, suspenseful experience, to just an outright no good experience. So it's just weird that there is that line, like, in our minds, that we see him off some mother or even the kid earlier, and we're willing to accept that, and that is not that's not stepped over the line for us. But the baby stuff, I'm not like making fun of it. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, it's just weird. Yeah, it's how like our minds
perceives
work.
an actor when it comes to the teenagers and young adults. My brain still is like, don't worry, it's just an actor. My brain is not programmed to know that's not a real baby, because it is a real baby. That's probably a real baby crying. They probably took a baby and put it on the set and they put a mic over it. So it's the way my brain perceives it, I think. But I mean, to me, we want to like the villains because that's sort of the new mythology, you know. It's the modern Loki's, the modern.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of like it plays up in your everybody's dark side. It's like I don't know, it's weird. Like not
It's
that
the
any
great story. It's the
yeah,
epic, and there's no great epic without a villain. It just isn't,
sure.
you know.
I agree. But yeah, great scene either way. They did it really well, and they teased the hell out of that. Not like they didn't like do it too far to the point where if they dragged it on too much, where it just became cheesy or felt forced or fake or whatever. It's not like he just picked up the knife and then was right about ready, and then he changed his mind. Like no, he just walked up, kind of observed the baby, and then just immediately turned and did a 90-degree and then just walked out. Like there was no like it was just perfect to me. It was perfect how it was done. And I also like the lead up to it. Just hearing the baby crying, everybody was thinking immediately the same thing. So I thought that was really well done. And as soon as he walks away, I swear I heard in my theater at least everybody had a sigh of relief. Like, oh thank God. Like like everybody. You just got the feeling of it. Like everybody rested a little bit easier knowing that's not what was going to happen. Now, if he came back and then killed the baby anyways, then it would have been like, damn it.
Fake out.
Yeah.
He gets a second knife.
Yeah, now there's a baby in the next house, and it's just like, or two baby, like it just keeps upping the ante. I don't know.
He kills the baby with another baby. Like, yeah, it would just be awful.
So,
I would not like it.
But anyway, so yeah, very effective scene, well done, good suspense. Like I said, this to me wasn't a scary film; it was more of a suspense thriller, and that was definitely good suspense and tension. So he moves on, and that's where he keeps hitting houses. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm trying to think. I guess the next thing that's really worth talking about is the friend of Allison. So the whole interaction between Allison and the kid, I can't remember his name, that she's babysitting, but he was the one that with all the funny lines, he's clipping his nasty ass toenails, he says, and he's like up late and just they're teasing each other. I thought that was great dialogue between the two, by the way.
It was good.
So good stuff there. And so she's putting him to bed, and David, I think the character Dave or David or whatever, he comes in and he's her boyfriend, and so they're fooling around. The kid is asleep, but all of a sudden, you know Michael's there because you hear the breathing earlier, which they brought that back where you hear the breathing. So you know he's there, and the kid comes running down the stairs, and he's like, the boogeyman is like, his delivery on this was fantastic. He's like, look, he's up there. I don't want anything to do with it. I think we just need to get the hell out of here. Like the kid was the smartest in that scene, which is definitely an 80s trope of having the kids outsmart the older people. But it was great. So she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go look up there, and don't worry." Like she thought he was just making it up. But I like how the kid's like, "No, send Dave up there. Send him up first." He's just like writing this guy off. Like screw him. So anyway, she goes up there. I like the tease, even though it was clearly a fake out when she was like, "Sir, what are you doing in here, sir?" Like, you knew damn well Michael was up there, but you knew this wasn't where he was going to actually be there. She was just teasing him. So she puts him down, or I guess she doesn't put him down, but this is where she goes and looks in the closet, or he is down. And so she goes to the closet, and that's when she gets attacked, and he starts... So Michael's chasing her now, and the kid is just like, "Oh shit, I'm getting the hell out of here." I loved his reaction here. Like, he didn't even try and help her. Like, it's not like he completely abandoned. He kind of doubled back to try and help her, but then he realized there is absolutely nothing he could do. He's just a little kid. So I did like that. I appreciate it because that's like, to me, is realistic and smart that the kid's not going to throw his own life in there when there's nothing he could do. So the Dave character goes up to... He's going to go up there to try and help her, but even the kid's like, "No, just get the hell out of here. You're going to die too if you go up there." And the kid just books it, and he gets out of there. And we kind of leave off there. We don't really know what happens. David goes upstairs, and we don't actually see the interaction. So I thought that was well done. Your thoughts on that whole interaction?
The scene is good. I just felt really bad for the babysitter.
Yeah, she was cool.
You like her. You don't spend a lot of time with her, but she's very likable in the time. I forgot she was even friends with the daughter. I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little nod to the whole babysitting situation from the first one.
Sure.
But for how little time you spent with a babysitter and even her boyfriend, I really like these two characters. I like the kid too. So this is a praise, I guess. But that just kind of sucks. Wish they didn't die, but that's why it's a
Yeah.
horror movie. So yeah.
It is always nice, and I do consider it a praise when you actually like the characters that are being killed off, because then they've done their job of establishing some sort of emotional connection to these characters or attachment or liking. So many movies, horror movies, slasher movies especially, fail at doing that. So the characters that get killed off, there's nothing worse than when you just do not care at all about the characters that get killed off. Like, that was one of my biggest complaints about Halloween 2, except for Annie, is that the other characters, like Laurie's friends, I just did not care at all about. Not even a little bit. So in here, I really liked it. Like, they actually established likable characters that you wanted to see make it, and it was unfortunate when they didn't. So, good stuff. And I thought it was an effective scene. Like, it's just well done, well shot once again. And unfortunately, it was a trailer scene, so once again, I knew she was going to slam the door shut and he was going to be in the closet. But we didn't know how it turned out other than that. But good stuff. Thought the little kid, at least the little kid, made it out of there, so I did like that. He was a cool character, likable. And yeah, we never know what happens to him. And trying to think, next is, I guess we can tackle the police officer coming across that scene, because he's called to the scene basically. So he goes up and he's looking through the house, and this is another one of those where I said, man, I love how Michael toys with people and plays tricks on people, because we get a nice callback to the original in the sense that we just see somebody sitting in the room covered in a sheet with two little eye holes poked out, just like in the first movie. And damn, that was a cool scene. It was very tense, because you're thinking, and at least this is how I was thinking, is I'm like, I bet that's one of the bodies, but there's always the chance that it's Michael. Like,
yeah. I'm in my head, I'm thinking it's two possibilities. I'm going to say it's one of the bodies.
Yeah,
I don't think it's Michael, but I mean, that was not a vote of confidence. I was not 100% at all.
Yeah, they were good at building it up. Like, it could be either. You're pretty sure it's a body, it's a plant, and then he's going to pop out from somewhere else. But there was still there was still a good enough reason to doubt it that, okay, that could be Michael, and he just lashes out as soon as he gets close. That still would have been creepy as hell. But either way, so the cop goes and pulls it off. It's the babysitter. And then this is where Laurie arrives on the scene. She sees Michael upstairs, a room away from the other guy, the police officer. And so Sheriff Hawkins. And so she looks up, she sees Michael in the window, she shoots at Michael, but it turns out to be the mirror. So there's a mirror image of Michael from standing in that room. So the mirror breaks. That's when the sheriff is like, what the hell? And I like that Michael passed by the sheriff. Like, he either didn't know he was in there, or he was just more distracted by Laurie's shot. You know, like, I thought that was cool, because he just passes right by the door. Now he's going outside. Like, now his focus is on going outside, and passes right by the sheriff. Sheriff takes two shots. He goes to follow him. Laurie goes to follow him. She actually gets one shot into Michael, like his shoulder or something, catches him, but then the sheriff kind of distracts Laurie, so then they get caught up talking to each other while Michael escapes. Your thoughts on that whole scene?
I like the mirror scene a lot.
And we do see, I guess,
sort of,
real quick,
yeah.
we do see the David or whatever pinned up against a wall, so a nice little callback there as well.
I actually don't have much thoughts on this scene, to be honest with you. It was good, but I like the mirror shot quite a bit. I like that. I like it. Says a lot of good things about Laurie. There's a lot of interesting things about Michael, but I don't really have much of an opinion other than it was just I enjoyed it. It was good. No deep analysis, at least.
Sure. So it was well done, well shot, good suspense with the sheet and everything. So we continue from there. So now they are actually on the hunt. They've seen Michael. They know what's going on. And yeah, this is the next major scene I can think of to talk about is Allison leaves the party. She's walking alone, but then the other dude, the friend or whatever, is walking with her. And
Wikipedia has him as Oscar.
Oscar, sure. And then so Oscar's walking with her. They take a shortcut, which is not a good idea because there is a subtle scene where you see. I thought it was Michael's truck, like the truck that he stole, the Jeep that he stole earlier. I think you see it in the background, like drive by the street behind them. So I'm almost wondering if that is the case, but I don't know if he actually got in or what. But I could just be mistaking another vehicle for that. But I thought that's what it was because it's right when they take the shortcut. So they jump over the fence. Dude goes immediately to kiss her, and then she's like, "No, hell no, this is not happening." And then so he kind of shrugs it off, but he's on the ground. She just ditches him because she doesn't want any of that. She goes, leaves him, jumps over the other fence, and so he's still sitting there, and he thinks there's like he says like Mr. Elrod, which I think Elrod was one of the stunt actors of Michael, I think, in Halloween 2, I believe. I know one of the masks is called an Elrod, so I'm almost positive he at one point played Michael. And so that's a cool little like homage or whatever, a little nugget. So he gets up, and he noticed like the guy's gone. So who we thought was Mr. Elrod, which we knew was Michael, even though he's really in the background, out of focus, which once again, highly enjoyed. So we don't know where Michael is, and he's like, "Oh, you're playing tricks on me." Well, they already established that there's like proximity lights. So when you get close, the floodlights come on, and motion sensor lights. So we've established that already. So then all of a sudden, the lights come back on, and Michael is a little bit closer to him. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, what's going on?" And then all of a sudden, the lights go off, and I thought that was really well done. And then next thing you know, lights go back on, and Michael's mid-swing slashing at him. Really good. He's trying to get the hell out of there. He's screaming for Allison to come back and like to help him. But at first she's not, like, she thinks he's just messing with her or, trying to be pathetic or whatever just to get her to come back. But she realizes, she gets curious, and she comes back only to see him essentially, his like jaw was impaled on the top spiky part of the fence. And or the gate or whatever, and that's when she freaks out. And then I like that Michael kind of just shows up and on the other side of the fence as well, and he just kind of looks at her. That's when she freaks out, just like, "Oh shit."
It's a good visual, but this is another one of those things where that the boyfriend's best friend, like, it's hard. If you've seen as many horror movies as you and I have, you know exactly where this is going, especially with the motion sensor lights. Like, it just, it had a good conclusion, but a lot of the scene, I was just waiting. It was just a lot of waiting during this dialogue, up until the gate point for me.
Well, I like the light scene. I mean, yeah, it's been done before for sure, like strobe lights and all that, and I still thought it was effective. You knew it was coming, but as soon as that light went off, when it was already like when Michael's clearly there, standing there, and that light goes off, I still thought it was good. So personally, I enjoyed it. So I thought that was good. So she goes running, freaking out. I'm trying to think what comes next, really. It doesn't really matter, so we can kind of jump ahead. So Laurie gets her daughter. She's like, "Look, now do you believe me?" Essentially, like, "We gotta go. People are dying. Everything's going to hell. Get the hell out of here." She tells all the kids to go inside, to go home, people to lock their doors. Sheriff's trying to get Allison. Laurie gets Karen and her husband to her house, and they're, preparing for lockdown and all that. Meanwhile, the sheriff is going with the doctor to find Allison. They find Allison, and then they also come across Michael eventually. So while they're driving around, Michael's just, once again, he's just walking around. That's what I love about him, is like in this movie, he's literally he's just roaming, man. Like he is like I'm trying to think of like, what's the best analogy here where he's just like,
the best analogy is
like a
Friday the
squirrel or
13th on the NES. Like, he could be anywhere, and he's dangerous, and you don't know where he is, but you have an idea, and you're just, if you know he's there, you're just trying to dodge him. That, to me, that's a great analogy, because that's what a good slasher should be. Where is he? You don't know, but he's not far. That's awesome to me.
Right. And I guess what I was more trying to like like what type of animal is just like aimlessly walking until their attention catches, like something catches their
A
attention.
great white shark, maybe. I mean, that's the one they always use. That's
Possible,
the
yeah.
common Halloween analogy. Um,
Like he's just
like
very like, okay, so I hear a scream, so now his attention's this way. Like I don't know, he's just very. It's great. Like there's no purpose other than to be the just this killing machine that kills everything in his path, and then he gets curious and like now I'm gonna go over to this house. Now I'm gonna go over to this house. Now like it's like a game to him. Like I'm gonna sneak in this back door. I don't know. It's just interesting to me, I guess.
yeah, he's like a very violent meter inspector. Like it's great. I love it.
So, anyways, they get eyes on him while the sheriff's driving, and he runs them down, which is a nice callback to part or Halloween 4 and I think another one, H2O, where she runs them over. So we get him running him down, which was brutal. He runs Michael down. Michael gets knocked down, and then like the whole time the doctor was like, "Don't hit him, don't hit him." He had said something earlier in the film where he said, "Don't kill Michael. He's property of the state." Like he even requested not to kill him, which I thought was interesting for him to do because earlier on in the movie he said he wanted to put Michael down. He wants to be there to see him burn. So I thought that was interesting that he did that. But anyways, yeah, he's basically telling the sheriff, "You better not kill him. Don't hit him." He didn't want him to hit him. And then when the doctor essentially goes up to Michael, and the sheriff was going to finish Michael off, but when the sheriff goes up towards the doctor, there's one more line I guess we got to pre-establish before we get to what happens here. The twist of the movie is the doctor had said something earlier in the movie to the sheriff where he said, like, I almost wonder, like he's constantly talking about why Michael does what he does and wanting to hear him speak, and essentially wants to know what he's feeling when he kills people. Like, what does he feel? Like, what sort of satisfaction? What makes him do it? You know, like, why does he keep doing it? What thrill does he? So that's important to note because when this whole interaction happens, Michael's on the ground. Doctor even says he's not breathing anymore. You killed him. He's dead. When the sheriff goes up to investigate, the doctor ends up pulling a knife out, like a scalpel of sorts, and then stabs the sheriff like multiple times in the neck and just slashes him. And that's the big twist, is that the doctor was essentially enabling Michael. And that's where we can assume, just put the pieces together, that's why he wanted to get on the bus earlier, because he was probably the one that, caused the accident to start. He was nearest to the driver, so he could have slashed the driver or whatever, causing the wreck, and then everything goes crazy. Michael kills everybody, etc. And yeah, so that was a good reveal. I also like that he was like the replacement for Loomis in this movie, so it was a good like red herring that you think this is just a person introduced here to be the new Loomis, but it's not necessarily the case because they take the 90-degree turn where, unlike Loomis, who in his own right was, could be crazy. Even in the first movie, he could be a little crazy. But this doctor, on the other hand, didn't, like, for all these years that he's been taking care of Michael, it's clear that he was not trying to rehabilitate Michael. He was trying to, if anything, he was probably encouraging him. He was fascinated with the idea of why Michael does what he does, and if anything, he wanted to crash the bus to see Michael do it in person. Like, he wanted to unleash Michael to see what would happen and to see him at work. What are your thoughts on this reveal? It's creepy. I guess I'll finish out the scene here, but he starts like, this is crazy because Allison's trapped in the back of the police car, which I was like, holy hell, how do you get out of this one? Like, she's dead to rights. She is trapped. I thought she was going to kick out the window or something, but nope. She's trapped in this vehicle. Doctor drags Michael's body over and puts Michael in the back seat, but he's wearing Michael's mask. Like, this dude is just batso. Like, he is obsessed with Michael. He's wearing Michael's mask as he drags him. Then he puts Michael in the back seat, throws the mask in there, and then starts driving as he's talking and kind of explaining. Like, he gets on this big old spiel about wanting to hear Michael speak and talk to him and wondering what he would say, etc. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm super mixed. The doctor being evil is super uninteresting to me. The idea that he crashed the bus, I like the idea that he crashed the bus on purpose, but I mean, his whole motive is to find out more about Michael, but then he kills the cop, and in theory, he killed a lot more people than that.
No, I don't
We
think. Well, I mean, yeah,
we know he didn't kill the bus driver because when he stabs the cop, he says, "Oh, so that's what that feels like."
yeah,
So it's implied he didn't kill anyone else.
he might have indirectly killed them, yes, by causing the bus crash. But I think him killing the cop was his first taste of actually slashing and killing, etc. So, anyways, continue.
I just the idea of someone who studied Michael for so long that they went crazy themselves. It's not a bad idea. I just the way it was executed, it felt super rushed. Because almost everything you know about the doctor, you kind of find out in retrospect. Other than that, he's just normal ass psychologist, hanging around the scene. I I just thought it was super boring. I'm like, oh, okay, so he's evil. But it's kind of like the cell phone and the pudding. If you don't have this guy, if you don't write him this way, you end up with a very different movie. So it's all part of the formula. I don't know. Once I found out he was evil, I knew exactly okay, let me rephrase that. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen because she was in the backseat of a locked car with Michael Myers. So I can't say I completely knew what was going to happen, but I knew she was going to live. This guy's going to die. And that was a good death scene, but I thought evil psychologist trying to kill or sacrifice, Haddonfield in the name of science, super boring. I wasn't feeling it.
Oh,
and I don't really have an argument for that. Like I said, when he's evil scientist, man, I just lost a lot of interest in the guy. Not that I was super interested in him before. He didn't really do a lot in the movie prior to that. And in my opinion, before he stabbed the cop, I was like, man, this is a really shitty replacement. This makes me miss Loomis. This makes me miss Malcolm McDowell. Like, this guy is so boring.
Well,
so yeah. Go on.
No, I mean, the fact that he was kind of boring made me enjoy the twist even more because he's not a Loomis replacement, and it would be insulting to think his performance and the role he has was meant to replace Loomis. So if anything, they were giving you the red herring. He was just kind of meh. But then when he does the twist, first of all, I did not see that coming. There's a little bit of like, well, that's a little fishy that he's acting like this, or he's obsessed with like not killing Michael Myers. But that was right before the twist. So even then I was like, I wasn't thinking it. It's not like I was thinking like, yeah, this guy's a bad guy. Like this guy is on Michael's side or anything. But first of all, I didn't see it coming. So to me, that I already give it kudos because it's hard to surprise, especially in these movies. There's not a whole lot of twists. I can't think of like twists in Halloween movies that much, at least ones that work. So I thought this worked. I liked it. It gave the character something. It makes him memorable for that alone because he was not going to be memorable otherwise. And second of all, I liked it because it made sense. How did the bus crash? Well, now we know. Like, they didn't have to come out and say it. We know that now pretty much we can 99% sure be positive that he got on that bus to do this. Like, he was setting it all up. I like that. It's like taking the crazed fan, but putting it in the position where he can actually control it. So in my opinion, it's the cult aspect of somebody trying to use Michael Myers as a pawn, but doing it in a way that actually I enjoy because it was a one-sided affair. Like, this was a doctor that thought, I'm fascinated with Michael, so I just want to let the animal loose. And it turns out to bite him in the ass, which it should have. Because trust me, if Michael Myers was subservient to this guy, I would be singing a completely different tune. I would be telling you how much I hate it, that Michael Myers is somehow working for this doctor now or doing things for this doctor. No, the doctor was obsessed with Michael Myers and set up this whole thing to see him in his, like, he puts on the guy's mask. To me, that's like, that seals the deal. This guy is absolutely bonkers. He should have been in the asylum right alongside Michael Myers, not as a doctor, but it's the wolf in sheep's clothing. He picked a spot, and boy did it, I thought it gave like great tension. When he puts Michael in the back with Allison, I was like, how the hell is she gonna get out of this? Like, there's just no way. Like I was like, there's Michael Myers. As soon as he wakes up, she's done. But then I like the interplay of where he's obsessed with like, oh, I want to hear Michael Myers talk or say something. He's never said anything to me. Like he just wants to have a conversation with him and just get inside his brain. And it's like, I like that she fucked with him. And yeah, he came off looking a little stupid that he was so easily like fooled by her, but it's okay. Like once again, it's how we got to A to B. And that's also another reason why I like the doctor's turn, is because this isn't Michael Myers that sneaked on to the underneath the truck and like somehow hung on for several miles, and then all of a sudden like, oh, now he's at Laurie's house because he snuck on. Like they actually came up with a reason that I thought was at least well done enough to he wanted to reunite Laurie with Michael Myers to see what Michael would do. And in his thoughts, like his whole hypothesis is that they survive because of each other. Like they survive in spite of each other. They're both stronger because of each other. Like he was obsessed with that. So he wants to take Michael to Laurie, and that's this whole thing is. So him getting all the way up to, you know, what I'm from Laurie's house, he brought Michael to Laurie. If this movie started off with Michael having a vendetta, and we kind of, you know, gave our opinion of why or how this is all going to be set up and what to expect in this movie, I did not expect that Michael would legitimately just go on a killing spree. Once again, just be let loose. It's not like he even thought about Laurie. He just went on a killing spree, just like it was, you know, picking right up where he left off. But he was brought to Laurie, so I like that. Because to me, they almost played it off like Laurie didn't mean so much to Michael, but Michael sure as hell meant a lot to Laurie. She had the obsession with Michael. Michael doesn't have the obsession with her. She's just another person that he tried to kill. I like that. It's different. We've seen time after time, film after film, where Michael's just obsessed with killing Laurie or Laurie's, you know, offspring or whatever. And it's like, that was not this movie. He had no obsession with killing her. He got brought to her house by this crazy doctor. And he's like, okay, well, I guess we're here now. I guess I'm killing her again, or I'm going to attempt to kill her and her family. Like, these are just things. I don't even think he recognizes these as people, kind of like you were talking about before with the baby. I don't think Michael sees things that way. I think he kills. He only tracked down and killed the podcasters because he knew they had his mask. Like, he's like, I'm getting that back. So, I don't know. It's just fresh. Like, to me, on a series that's had 10 installments prior to this, it felt fresh to finally have a Michael that just does things and isn't obsessed with a particular person or family or a cult or anything. He just is. He's this unstoppable force being. So if we have to have the doctor turn evil as a plot device to get Michael from, once again, point A to point D or whatever, or C to D, so we can get him to Laurie, I liked it, because why else? Why else would he drive all the way out to Laurie? Or is it just supposed to be happenstance that he comes across Laurie's house once again randomly? Like, to me, that would have felt lazy. So I liked having this Loomis. Basically, he was a decoy. He was the wolf in sheep's clothing. He was there to lure you in. I mean, she even flat out says, you are the new Loomis. Like, they tried to convince you that he is supposed to be Loomis's replacement because Donald Pleasance is no longer here. So let's have a new Loomis. Let's introduce a new Loomis in the franchise that will keep going. I thought he was going to be the doctor that keeps going, keeps doing the same old shtick, hunting Michael down. We don't need him for that anymore. We have Laurie for that. She's playing the role of Loomis. He's the traitor. He's the saboteur. Boom. I liked it. And then I like that when Michael finally wakes up, he's like, fuck you, and just smashes the seat with his. He's like the annoying little kid on an airplane or sitting behind his brother. He just like smashes his feet against the seat and just smashes him up against the wheel. Car crashes. He gets out. Or he just doesn't crash. It was already sitting because Laurie fooled him. He gets out. I like Michael looking, or not Laurie, but he looks over to Allison, and then he's just like, no, I'm going to kill this guy. Like I said, he's just this, I don't know. It's weird. That's the mysterious. Is why did he leave her and go after him? I don't know. That's kind of the that's the thing that intrigues me. But regardless, so he gets out, stomps on the doctor's face. Like, didn't he even said before he died, he knew he was gonna die, but he's like, say something. Like, to his grave, he wanted Michael to say something, and Michael didn't. I'm so glad they didn't have him say die or welcome to my boot or some bullshit like that. Like,
Great
I'm
act.
gonna
I would've
stomp.
liked that
I'm
a
gonna
lot.
stomp this out. I don't know. Like,
Well-
I do like goofiness, but I didn't think Michael was set up for that in this film. I like that they played him the way he did, but
You gotta put it in perspective, though. Like, a lot of the good things you said about the Doctor are not things you experience while watching the movie. Like, I didn't know he crashed the bus until I was driving home and I was
Sure.
thinking about it. So it's maybe the.
That's
and
good, though.
here's what I do like. Here's something I think is very smart. If you spend your time studying Michael Myers, that's the equivalent of looking into the abyss. And it's easy to lose your mind if you stare into the dark too
right.
long.
It's like
And it
Harley
sounds
and the
like that's-
Joker or whatever.
Something like that. It sounds like he was like Loomis was victim number one. Loomis took a different approach where instead of falling in love with the abyss, he was like, we gotta destroy the abyss. Because at first I didn't like it. At first I'm like, man, we're still making Loomis this crazy superstitious dude. We're like getting to burn the dead body. I'm like, I feel like ever since Donald Pleasance died, like the Loomis character keeps losing more and more dignity. But I was thinking, well, no, that's not right. Maybe if he stared into Michael too long and those eyes eventually broke him down spiritually and he just eventually rotted away. Well, this guy kind of sort of fell under the spell in a way that Loomis didn't. Loomis was very damaged, but
Yeah.
he wasn't. He didn't drink the Kool-Aid that Michael was kind of giving him. Just
Right.
you know. So yeah,
This one flew too close to the sun. He got too close and he ended up diving into the deep end with Michael. So
but you don't experience that watching this guy. He's just old psychology, man. Like, you're watching the movie.
But
Yeah.
I disagree because it's like thinking about these things after the movie makes it better to me. Like the fact that we're having this discussion and we both had the same thought driving home from the movie, to me that's a good film when it causes you to be like, "Oh, that's why this happened," or "I bet you that." Like, to me, those are the best films. I can't tell you how many like actual fun or good films that I went and watched and I was just like, I had no thoughts after other than like, oh, that was a cool scene. That was a cool scene, or this was neat, and then it was worth only like 5 minutes of thought afterwards, and then you move on with your life. I thought there was a lot of just a lot of details in this that I really like, and I like that they weren't paint by the numbers or treating its audience like kids, because they could have, oh, I was the one that crashed the bus. It was me all along, twirl my mustache. Like, they didn't do that with them. It's just implied.
Which I'm glad. I do agree with that. This is gonna sound really pretentious, but I feel like The Ride Home deserves its own individual score. I don't feel like you can combine scores. Like, for example, piece of shit movie, Iron Man 3. F, easy. Ride Home, A++. The Ride Home from Iron Man 3 was a blast, just talking shit for like 30 minutes. So I feel like they're scored differently, but yeah, I mean, fair enough, though. I mean, that's kind of my piece, though. That's where
Sure.
I stand.
Yeah, my final thought is just I like movies that really do invoke that. I give credit to the movie more and more. Like, I guess my best one is like Dark Knight Rises, right? When I first saw that movie, that movie gets a lot of hate, but there are a lot of people that like it as well. So it's pretty torn. It's polarizing. But just on a quick note here is when I was driving home from that, or when I first got out of the film, I was like, it was all right. You know, it was kind of disappointing. But it was one of those that just like planted a seed in my brain. And I was just like, the whole ride home, I was just thinking back to everything that happened. Because when you're watching a movie, at least for me, I'm not thinking like way back at the beginning, oh, this happened, or trying to piece things together while I'm watching it to a degree. I'm just trying to get lost in what they're currently telling me. So then when I'm reflecting and I can like piece things together in my own mind, like it set the table up enough to at least have those thoughts and have that discussion. To me, that's worth something. I do agree it's not necessarily attached to the same thing, but I think there is merit to that. When you have a movie that really does spark those types of thoughts and debates and discussions, I think that is the film causing that. So that in itself and it's in a good way. It's not like a Iron Man 3 thing where you have a lot to talk about and it's negative. I think this one brings a lot to talk about in a good way. But regardless,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean that. We'll continue.
Yeah,
I could say more, but
sure.
we'll move forward.
And we can always revisit it when we're giving our closing thoughts and wrapping it up. But moving on, so we're getting near the end. We're getting only 30 minutes here of the film, the big showdown. So now we've established Michael is now within like 300 feet or 400 feet or whatever from Laurie's home, because that's where they stopped. There was 2 police officers stationed outside of Laurie's home, and they noticed that the police vehicle's back there. And I did like some of the dialogue. How he's like, that police officer did what I would like do. Like for my like dinner, I would pack like a brownie or something. Like I did like that he said that. I was like, that's what a 5-year-old would pack for his meal. I was like, that's me.
If he
I
was
would do
packing his own
that.
lunch.
Yeah, I would do that. So I thought that was good. And yeah, so they look back and they realize, hey, why is the sheriff's cop, why is his vehicle parked there, like at an awkward angle or whatever. So they go investigate. Michael had stomped the doctor's head in, just like a pumpkin, like you said. It was just like just strawberry slushy or whatever. Like, I thought that was great. They didn't overdo it. It's not like it was like several stomps like in the Rob Zombie one. It was literally just like, I'm smushing this guy's head. It was so quick and done. Just one boot. I doubt that's realistic at all, but I loved it. It was done quick and dirty. And then, yeah. And so end of the doctor. Michael didn't talk after all. And then during that confrontation, that's when, because Michael smashed in the seat and broke the fencing part or whatever, she sneaks out through the door and gets the hell out of there. And she starts running in the woods. And this is where I really give the score credit. I mean, it was great throughout the film. I mean, so many movies, horror movies, like they don't know when to just be subtle with their music. This one was great at doing that. Like, it didn't just have loud blaring music every time something got suspenseful. Sometimes it just let the suspense and tension speak for itself and stay silent, because sometimes that can make the tension and suspense even greater when you don't have noises and you're just dead silent and you're wondering what's going on. This movie had some of that. It had a good mix, but I love the music when Allison starts running in the woods away from Michael. I love that part of the score. So good. So hats off to them, to John Carpenter and his son, who both worked on the score. Wonderful. Just have to say that. But so she takes off into the woods, and then the cops come up to investigate. Michael goes in the old switcheroo, so while they're investigating what's going on and they find the doctor with his head smashed in, Michael is now back at their car. And yeah, that's where we leave off, so we don't actually see what happened to them until later. And then Michael gets up to, or the cop car arrives at Laurie's house, which is on complete lockdown. And then the husband, the father of the film, he comes out to ask the cop, hey, is everything good? You know, what's the report? And he goes up to look at the cop car because there's like this glowing pumpkin-y jack-o'-lantern looking thing coming from inside. And then when he opens it up, he finds one dead cop and then the other dead cop's head, which has been carved like a jack-o'-lantern, which I thought was awesome. Good scene. I love that it was glowing like a real, like, I don't know. I don't know how realistic that is, but it was fantastic. Makes you think of like Halloween 2 in the intro, where it's like the skull coming out of the pumpkin. So good stuff.
I wish
there.
that wasn't in the trailer. That was just, I would have really liked that better if
Yes.
that wasn't in the trailer,
I
by
agree.
the way. But it was good.
I agree. It was a good payoff. I always thought it was the sheriff's head that it was going to be, just based on the trailer, the way the head looked. I always assumed it was the sheriff. So it was a good surprise when it wasn't. But either way, he still died anyways, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But by the doctor, no less. But and I would say that maybe there was a chance that he lived, but then when the doctor left, he drove right over his body. So I was like, nope, he's dead.
I missed that, actually. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he just drove right over his body. Like, I was like, well, because I was like, maybe he's still like alive, but like bleeding out type of thing. But nope, I don't think him passing over on an SUV was
That's a done deal.
gonna leave much there. But yeah, so immediately when he finds those things, you see Michael come up from behind him, choke him out with the bell or whatever the hell that was, and the wind chimes, and choke him up and kills him, and then yeah, so that guy's dead. Unfortunately, Allison's still running through the woods trying to figure out what the hell is what. She's scared out of her mind trying to figure out. She eventually stumbles across all the mannequins that Laurie was seen shooting earlier for target practice. That was that was honestly the only scene in the movie that kind of took me out of the movie, because I think they played up they did the, ooh, look how spooky these mannequins are, like close-ups on all the mannequin heads, and then the abrupt, like, loud music, like, ooh, ooh, like, I was like, you could have just had dead silence, maybe like a couple, like, sticks creaking from the animals, have it foggy, and just shown us all the mannequins, because that in itself is already creepy. You don't need to... That was the only part of the film I was like, they went a little overboard with that. Like,
Well, there's a better mannequin scene later, so why didn't you just go with
Yeah.
that mannequin scene? Why do we need two creepy mannequin scenes, man?
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah.
But yeah, that was honestly probably the only scene in the film where I was like, that's a little odd. That was a little cheesy. I don't know about that. That was probably the most modern horror-y thing where I'm like, yeah, that's a modern horror movie to overdo it like that. Everything else was good, though, in the way they approached it for the most part. But anyway, so we cut back to the house. Laurie can't save what's-his-name, so she puts her daughter, Karen, down in the cellar area that she has hidden away, and she's going to handle this with Michael. Michael busts through the window, grabs Laurie, classic mistake, so... This is really good tension, because usually when Michael gets his hands on somebody, at least in this film, they're a done deal. And he had her up, choking her, smothering her. He could have broken her neck at any points, but this was very tense. Her glasses break, everything. It looked intense. He lifted her off the ground and everything. I was like, holy cow, are they actually going to kill Laurie like this? I was thinking that, but it was enough to at least give me some doubt, which is always good. That's all you need, as long as it makes you doubt it. But Laurie's able to bring the shotgun up, and she blows like 2 or 3 fingers off of Michael. Oh boy, he felt that one. That was good.
That was a good shot too. It was quick, but you could clearly see like the missing pieces of the hand. It was, although I will say that was a little frustrating. I didn't like this in the trailer because I'm thinking like, she is now like the shotgun badass. Why would you lean against the door with glass openings? That's so frustrating to me. But
yeah, that was definitely for a character that's prepared all these years and seemingly like has done so well at being ready for this. Definitely a rookie mistake to get that
you
close
invested that many mannequins. My gosh.
Yeah, I know. With you have a shotgun. Just watch the door. You know, I agree. Getting close.
He's not gonna throw the knife.
Yeah, I know.
But yes.
So, anyways, so that happens. We get a great scene there. She manages to get away because she blows his fingers off as her saving grace, and that's when she's kind of panicking. Okay, so she goes down into the cellar, I believe, with her daughter. But then Michael comes through the door because since the glass is broken, he can take off all the bars and the locks and everything. So he makes it in. He's now in the house, but he's like toying with them once again. So he's walking around. They can tell that he's walking around. Laurie's telling her daughter, I'm not going to let him get you. So this is great. This is great because I love all the flashbacks to, how... I mean, we've been building up, Laurie was this horrible mother or whatever, but it's like all of it made sense because here we are. They're in the exact circumstance that she feared. So she prepared her daughter for this so that way she wouldn't be a victim like she was when she was younger. So it makes sense where it's like, yeah, there was those uncomfortable scenes with Laurie earlier where she is that, kind of loose cannon basket case type of thing. Even she says she's a basket case. But here it's like, this makes it all worth it. In her mind, it makes it all worth it. If her daughter survives no matter how bad of a mother she was, because she, was all about training and whatnot and preparing. No matter, you put all that aside, this is vindicating her because now her daughter's prepared, and if her daughter lives through this experience because of what she taught her, then it was all worth it in the end. And now I think Laurie will get that resolution, and her daughter will probably respect Laurie a hell of a lot more now and be thankful that she did all those things because she was prepared. Anyway, so continuing on. So they're in the cellar in the basement or whatever, locked up, hidden down there. Michael's not really sure how to get down there. So at this point, Michael's up there somewhere. Laurie shoots up through the floorboards because she thinks she, had a moment where she could shoot at Michael, but she's not really sure of the result. Seems like he's still moving around. So Laurie's like, I'm going to finish this. You stay down here. So she goes up, and now she's on the hunt for Michael. And I thought this was really interesting because now it's like Michael in his games, I don't know. I thought it was so awesome that it's like he's not just like this bull that's just continually like slamming the floorboards or angry that he can't figure it out. It's like, okay, you're going to hide? Well, fuck you. I'm going to hide. Like, I love that. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm in this house too. So it's like, if you don't want to come out, I'll go hide, and now you got to come find me. I don't know. I appreciate that.
It's a war of nerves. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like it.
It's who's going to have more patience, So, so Laurie goes up to find him. She's following a blood trail leading up because he had his fingers blown off. So, and it's almost like Michael's purposely doing this because there's a lot of scenes where it leads you to believe, like, because she checks several rooms, she locks each room, like she has like a nice little button system that a metal sheathed grated door or whatever comes down to lock off that room, which is incredibly smart. That's not even something I would have even thought of. So after she clears the room, she locks it down. So either he can't hide there, or if he was truly in there, now he's trapped in there. So I loved what she was doing with this. So she's clearing each room, locking it down, and then when she's following the blood trail, eventually, and there's some point of view shots where her holding the shotgun with the flashlight, like it's a first person shooter. There's some good shots in here, some creative camera work. So you're not really sure where Michael's gonna pop out from. This is like 5, 6, 7 minutes just like leading you, like just building the anticipation. You're not really sure when he's coming out. Meanwhile, we know Allison's still out there somewhere. We don't even really know what's going on with her. So she is searching. Eventually, she finds a trail of blood drops that lead to a closet. So now she's going to check this closet. She opens the closet, and this is the mannequin room that you alluded to before. So she opens the closet, and then she sees her daughter's husband's dead body stuffed up into there. So Michael, once again, playing tricks like he likes to do. So then she goes back to open the other door because she's convinced that he's in there somewhere. He's not in there. But then she notices there's blood on the mannequins. I don't know if they showed that before. I almost think the blood wasn't on the mannequins before because she had looked at those mannequins before. I don't think there's blood, so I think it was Michael kind of playing with her. That's why I thought he was using that blood purposely to, try and lure her where he wanted her to go.
I didn't catch the blood on the mannequins. It was dark too, but honestly, that's not my forte is catching details like that. I'm not a super visual guy.
Sure.
I didn't see the cop get run over again, so yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's blood on the mannequin. So now she's like, okay, he's probably over behind these mannequins, but he was actually over to the left, so he was indeed in the room. He pops out. They have a scuffle with the shotgun. Michael, I don't know if he stabs her or like cuts her in the shoulder or something. I can't remember. I think he does slice her at some point, and then he tosses her out the window. Like he just flat out tosses her off the balcony. And I thought this was a great scene because once again, we're having a callback to Halloween 1, but it was done cleverly because now Laurie's the one that's thrown off of the balcony. And now and you can almost see this coming too because Michael's attention gets taken away as Allison makes it into the house and she starts screaming for her mom, or not her mom, but her mom and grandma or whatever. So this distracts Michael long enough so that way when he looks back down to find Laurie, when he looks off the balcony, she's gone, and they play the little Halloween 1 sound, and she's gone. And they even had like the imprint on the grass and everything. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
This was the start of something great because this becomes the theme of the ending, which I thought was very strong.
Yes.
It's a complete role reversal. I love it.
Yes. Oh, it was so good. So now Michael realizes he's the one being fucked with. So this is great stuff. So then the daughter, or Allison, makes it down into the cellar. Laurie, we're not sure what happened with Laurie because she just disappears, like we said. And then Michael now is on the hunt to go towards Allison and Karen, who are down in the cellar. He knows they're down there somewhere. He hears the island moving, so he hears that moving, so he has an idea where they're at. So now he's shaking it. He grabbed a fire poker and he was like kind of slamming it around, but he does realize it's the island that's loose. So now he's shaking it, trying to bust it. He eventually busts through, dumps it over to the side. So now the door, or the stairway to the cellar is now open. So now the Karen does notice there's a gun because she has a whole arsenal down there. And so Karen realizes there's one, with her initials on it. So clearly that was the one that she was trained on when she was younger, which was great. So she goes and grabs that. And she's like, okay, you know what? Now I'm going to stand and fight and protect my daughter. So I thought that was a great moment. She's almost coming into Laurie territory now, where she is now going to stand up and fight against Michael. She's not going to run away. She's not going to be a victim. She's going to take the training her mother gave her, and she's going to protect her daughter. And there's a great scene here where you're waiting. What's Michael's game going to be? Is he going to find another way into the cellar somehow? I doubt there was one, but you never know. Is he going to pop up somehow? Is he going to bust through the floor? You're not really sure what he's doing because the camera's fixated on the opening. This is dark opening, just greatly lit. I thought all of this, the lighting on this was fantastic. So we're waiting. And all of a sudden you hear Karen, and she's like trying to quiet Allison down, be quiet, he's going to find us or whatever, he's coming. Well, anyways, now he's found him. So you don't know what Michael's waiting for, but Michael can probably assume they have a gun or something. So he's or a weapon or something. He's not sure. So he's waiting. And all of a sudden you hear Karen, like, she breaks down. She starts freaking out. She's like, I can't do this. Mom, I'm sorry. I can't do this. I thought I could do this, but I can't. And she starts breaking down. Like, it was convincing acting. Like, I had a hint of what was going on, but I was like, it was good. I thought it was really good. There was multiple ways they could have taken that, where she really could have broken down and then Laurie could have saved the day at the end, right at the nick of time or something. But I liked it the way they went, because as soon as, like, a few seconds after she starts breaking down and crying and saying she can't do this, Michael shows up and he just pops up like, now's my time to strike. I love it. He's like, even if she has a weapon down there, she's completely vulnerable. So he went for it. And it was a bait and switch, because as soon as he shows up at the top of the stairs, Karen's like, gotcha. And then immediately shoots him, catches him right in the shoulder or whatever, wings him. And then he kind of like falls down a little bit, and then Laurie just unloads with the knife, and we're getting kind of like shades of H2O, where she just unloads on the knife with him. And then he even gets knocked down into the cellar, and then she's like, okay, screaming to get Karen and Allison to run up the stairs. Bad deal. So Michael does his classic sit-up and grabs onto Karen before she can get away, and you're like, oh shit, is Karen gonna die? So great fake out there. Allison grabs the knife around. She stabs Michael and like cuts him across the hand or whatever, and kicks him in the face, which I thought was a powerful moment for that character. So now we're seeing everyone kind of step up to bat and, not be victims, which I thought was fantastic. And so now Michael is down in the cellar, and as soon as he gets up to give chase, like to go back up, Laurie hits a switch, and all of a sudden these bars cross it, and it turns out it wasn't a cage after all. It was a trap, and they trapped Michael exactly where they wanted him. Your thoughts so far before we get to the ending, because we are knocking on the door here.
Well, I think the fake out with Karen was really important, because most of the movie, the way they write her, she's pretty much just a wet blanket between I already forgot her name, Allison and Laurie, the granddaughter and Laurie. So they really needed that scene. They really needed a positive moment to say, hey, this character's cool too. And if you're going to do what you do next, which we'll get to that in a second, you really need this to be a likable character. So Yeah, that is a saving point for Karen's
Yes.
character. Super important.
Both her and Laurie, in my opinion. I alluded to it just before, but it's like her training actually worked off. She knew better, because if she didn't get that training, it's very possible she would have choked up during that scene, freaked out, had a breakdown, and her daughter could have been killed right there. And Laurie too, potentially. So you never know. It's like they could have all been victims right there, but because of the training that she got when she was a daughter, she ultimately was better off for it. She knew how to handle the situation. She remained calm, and she even used the "I'm a victim" card to fool Michael to give her the shot she needed. So I don't know. I thought that was brilliant. It's one of those things where what happens with Laurie, like, it was a good full circle story arc where it's like, okay, we see you're questioning whether Laurie's, like, her path that she's taken and the trauma and everything and the way she's treated her daughter, if it was all worth it. And to me, that's where I was like, ultimately, like, damn, that's awesome. Her daughter really was a badass after all. She didn't just, like, shrug off all the training she had gotten. She knew exactly how to handle it, and she did. So it worked. So I love that. So
I mean, we're gonna get to the next scene, which is pretty much the money shot of the movie.
yeah.
Well, I'll let you
Sure.
wrap that up.
So bars close, and Laurie, all of a sudden we start seeing all of these, like, lighters, or, fires or whatever, like the torches or whatever, kind of like welding torches, kerosene torches, all that stuff. So we start seeing a bunch of torches light up, like gas driven, and they're all over the house, and they're in the basement. Like, everything's gonna burn. And then Laurie tosses down a flare down to Michael and just says, "Goodbye, Michael." She gets her goodbye. She gets her send off. She gets her resolution. Everything she ever wanted. She has Michael trapped. Michael's just staring at them. I love that. I love the stare down where he's just like, he didn't freak out. He wasn't, like, banging. He wasn't doing a bunch of random slashes like it's H2O or Halloween 2, where he's just, like, putting his hand up on the bar and just, like, mindlessly slashing at them. There was nothing stupid like that. There was no grabbing at the mask. There was no reaching out. There was no Laurie coming up to Michael to touch him or any crazy dumb things like that. It helps that they're not related in this. So he just stares him down. He literally just stared him down, like he knew he was screwed, but he just stares down like his, abyss self, like you mentioned before. He stares him down. Everything catches on fire. They leave the house. We see the fire starting to build up around Michael. And then they get out of the house. They run away, and they find a truck, or like a person driving the truck and driving away. And they get in the truck. They're all in the back, like in the bed of the truck. And they do a shot of back at and this is important because there's always an out. They go back to the house, or like the camera flashes back to the house from within the basement. We see Michael's not standing on the steps anymore where we last saw him. We don't see a body on the ground. We don't see him anywhere. He's just gone. He's vanished. He disappeared. And they're on the bed of the truck getting away, and they slowly pan over to the knife, still kind of in Allison's hand that's bloody, and then we leave off there. Cut to the Halloween end credits. Thoughts?
I don't like the fact that they completely left it open. I mean, we talked about this before, how there are sequel plans already for this movie, but I think that's the worst thing they could have done if this is the final Jamie Lee Curtis film. I would not have left it open. I would have just, I mean,
okay, continue.
they're just gonna fuck it up again, dude.
Look,
They're just
look,
gonna make shitty
look.
sequels. Yeah.
There's always that chance, and I mean, we've seen their track record, but two things. It's a callback to Halloween 1. We don't really know what happened to Michael. He could still be out there, and I think that's important. Well, I guess there's three things. Second thing would be, I'm so tired of them killing Michael off to bring him back. If they're going to do another sequel, I'd rather not see Michael's burning corpse right there, right now. Do you get where I'm coming from? Like, for once, they actually left it open to a point where we don't see a headless body. We don't see him shot a million times and then blown up to pieces or anything. If they're going to write him out of this one, don't show us the body. That's storytelling 101. If you're going to leave it ambiguous, do not show the body. So when they flashed back, if he was just burning on the ground, I would have been like, this is stupid. They should not make another one. He's dead as dead can be right there. We're just going down the same mistakes as before, where you kill him off every single time, and then we bring him back because of money. If you're going to bring him back because of money, have the foresight to do so and don't actually kill him. Give us an ending that implies that he probably died, but it's not clear and it's completely ambiguous and he could have clearly escaped because he's not there. So I would much rather... It's like pick your poison. Do you want... Because there's going to be a sequel no matter what. We know that for a fact. Like,
I really don't want a sequel. I don't. Well, here's the thing. I've definitely picked my poison. I know what my favorite poison is. To me, when they left it ambiguous, then the first time they did it, the movie they made after that was debatably the worst Halloween ever made, in my opinion. I hate Halloween 2. Not to be confused with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So that doesn't inspire hope. That doesn't make me feel better because it's more logical. To me, Okay, I guess this leads to a greater point. I've kind of accepted that I'm never the guy they're going to cater to. I want the Lovecraftian mystery. They're never going to tell me why he can get hit by cars and survive. They're never going to tell me why he's strong enough to kick in the backseat of the car. They're never going to tell me why he can get shot so many times and it's all good, you know? So I don't want a sequel. This may actually kind of contradict what we talked about in the predictions lead up, but man, I don't know if there's anywhere they can go that's good. I don't know if they can do better than this.
Well, I agree on that point that I don't see where they can go with a sequel. But that said, I mean, there's already rumors of Jason Blum or whatever his name is. He's already hired a writer and they're already kind of getting... started on setting up getting the sequel set up, basically writing the new script and whatnot. Here's the thing. If they can get Danny McBride back, and obviously the rumor is saying otherwise, but it's just a rumor at this point. Money talks, anything can talk, reviews talk. As you said, if he gets handed a crappy script or if he gets pitched a better idea or whatever, if Danny McBride and the other guy, I swear to God, I need to remember his name. I gotta look it up because I'm tired.
Yeah, I closed the Wikipedia page.
I'm tired of calling him the other guy because it's not respectful. But let me Halloween 2018. Let's see who's written by here. David Gordon Green. I mean, he's the director as well. For God's sakes, I gotta know.
Yeah, he's
who
the
this
Pineapple
is.
Express director too.
Nice. I like that movie. But so David Gordon Green and Dana McBride, you have to keep in mind as well, if they can bring him back, they had in mind it was 2-part or even 3-part idea they had for this timeline or for this franchise to go down with this new story, with this continuation. The problem with old Halloweens, new writers, new directors, it was different time. They got money hungry. I'm hoping to God that if they continue this with a sequel, I'm hinging my faith as long as they bring Danny McBride back, David Gordon Green. If they can bring them back and they write the story that they have in mind, there may be more to tell here. That's my only... I agree with you. There's probably no topping this. But even if you get close and they can maintain the quality or get as close to it as possible, there's no reason why they can't keep going, in my opinion, if they can maintain or even get close. The problem lies when you get money hungry and just make sequels for the sake of making sequels. What they've said in interviews, and that's why I said it hinges on their inclusion, is that they had a story in mind from the get-go when they wrote this one. They had more in mind already planned out in their mind. They just didn't want to get ahead of themselves of where else they can go from here and where else they'd like to go. Doesn't mean it's going to be great, doesn't even mean it's going to be good. But here's the thing. Here's my other point, I guess, that I wanted to make is they didn't kill off Laurie Strode. So if they go somewhere else with Michael, you almost have to bring Laurie back, which means you have to get Jamie Lee Curtis back, which means if you're going to get her back, it has to be a script good enough to get her back. So unless she signed on for more than we're aware of, we don't know. I doubt it, but if they can get her back and they can get John Carpenter back, and I think them being included is going to hinge a lot on David Gordon Green and Danny McBride being involved. I think it's all one package, in my opinion. You bring them all back or you're not going to bring any of them back. And if it's that case, if they don't bring any of them back, I agree with you. I don't want anything to do. Just end it here. We ended on probably the best note we could have possibly ended on. Call it good. We're done. I agree wholeheartedly with you. But if you can get all of those factors back, I think there's something else. I don't know what, but there's somewhere to go from here.
Well, that's why I disagree. There's two places to go. One is Halloween 4, the other is Halloween 6. I don't. They're probably gonna do Halloween 4, but if they do Halloween 6, it's a coin flip if they're gonna do it right. So I think those are the only two paths in front of us. I don't see them. I just don't think there's anywhere other than those two paths. I don't see a third option. You know, that's why I don't want a sequel.
You like Halloween 6.
And let's be clear on that, though. That's a wildly imperfect movie.
I'm just saying it's up there for you in the.
I like the ideas of Halloween 6, and I like Paul Rudd being silly. Okay, let me put it this way. If they do an origin story and they do it right, yeah, I'm absolutely down for a sequel. But we both know they're not going to explain why Michael is super strong and super resilient to damage. Or why
I don't know
anything. The way he is. They're not going to do anything.
I don't know. I don't know that. Well, first of all, I'm the type that doesn't want to know that. Yeah, so exactly. We are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, we're very much opposites.
I like the mystery. I don't need to know why Jason is the way he is, and I still love those movies, most of them. I don't need to know why Freddy is the way he is. I just accept, he has all these magical powers because it's his world, I guess. Whatever.
Well, we know the what of Jason. Even if we don't know the why of Jason, we know it's supernatural. We know he's a zombie. And that's really all I ever needed from Jason, We don't even know that with Michael. We don't even know why.
I mean, there's a simple explanation for Michael. He is the boogeyman. He is evil incarnate. He literally is just the boogeyman. He's unstoppable. I don't know. Regardless, I mean, that is another discussion to have. But I guess for me, your options are the way you see it going down is 6 or 4. You put 6 aside. I like Halloween 4. That's my second, maybe third favorite in the franchise. And if we're a continuation where Laurie is now gone, maybe she died or whatever, and now we're continuing with but then, see, that's where I don't want the franchise to go, is because Halloween 4 was predicated on them being brother and sister, right? Because now he was all obsessed about tracking down that family. I don't think that we're getting that. And I really don't want to get that. Do we need that? I mean, that's up to them to make the sequel.
Massacre, though. That's what I meant by that. I don't want another October 31st in Haddonfield. That just sounds brutal to me.
That's the franchise. It's Michael Myers. I mean, it's like, I know Jason's been outside of Crystal Lake and whatnot, but I mean, these characters are synonymous with certain things. I don't know, but look, here's the thing. I remember a year and a half ago or whenever it was, I remember bringing up this movie when they first announced it on the podcast, on the Nethercast, and I remember Razor like, that's going to be awful. I don't have any faith that they can do it right. I just remember nobody really wanted to see it, and it's like, but me, because it's like, look, I didn't want it to end on zombie, and yes, this isn't zombie. This is much different. But if you do something really good, I'm the type of like, okay, let's see if you can bring the right factors again that made this work. If you can get them on board, let's go again. I was not Christopher, like, that's the thing that always bummed me out about Christopher Nolan. When every time he'd make one of the Batman movies, he's like, I don't know if we want to roll those dice again, you know, like we've done well so far. Each time we make a new one, we roll those dice and potentially make a bad one. It's like, I don't necessarily, I'd rather keep rolling those dice. And, you know, if you make a bad one, call it good. Say, you know, you're done. You screwed up. You are no longer good for this franchise. Let's go somewhere else with it or whatever. But if you can make 3 good movies and then a stinker, I'd rather have the 3 good movies and a stinker than just that one good movie. I don't know. That's where, not that that's the case here, but you know what I mean, is basically you reinstill faith in me when you do something really good. And if you as filmmakers, money aside, feel confident enough to roll those dice, or to, if you have a story in your mind, which they claim to have, if you have somewhere you think is good to take this, that's why I say all of this with the caveat that it hinges on Danny McBride, David Gordon Green, Jamie Lee Curtis, and John Carpenter. I don't need all of them, even if it's just Danny McBride and David Gordon Green. If they have something in mind, I think they love this franchise. They've proven that they truly are fans of this franchise. They truly are. They understand. Not only do they love the franchise, because there's a lot of people that make movies that are like, oh yeah, I'm a big fan, and then they make like something that's completely different. This is not that. This is a love letter to Halloween, in my opinion. It's very faithful to the original. And if they can do that, that means if they made another one, it's still going to have great camera work. It's still going to have great shots. It's going to have storytelling that at least tries to connect those dots and doesn't just half-ass it. They understand Michael. They have good dialogue. Like, these are so, I don't know. I have enough faith in them to make a good Halloween movie. Maybe not a necessary one, but I have faith in them to make another good Halloween movie. Because really, you don't even need Laurie anymore. You really don't. As far as Laurie understands, Michael's done. Now, if you did a second one, like a sequel to this, you don't really have to have Laurie involved, because Michael gets out and then he goes on a killing spree again. That's what he does. He doesn't need to have this grudge with Laurie. He didn't have it in this one. So Michael escapes. He goes on another killing spree with all new setting, all new characters. And then in the third one, to wrap it up as the trilogy, as they've implied, you bring Laurie back, and then you really do end it once and for all. You take away the ambiguity. You just kill him for good and be done with it until 20 years down the line and they want to reboot it for some reason. That, to me, is how you do this. You don't need Laurie in the second one, because as far as she knows, Michael's done. He's done. He's burnt to ashes. There would be no remains. It's over. Have him pop up somewhere else, not going after Laurie. Because what they've established in this movie, it ain't about Laurie for him. It's about killing. Just continually killing. So one night in Haddonfield, Laurie's not going to have enough time to react. Maybe she's moved on with her life and moved somewhere else for once in her goddamn life where she moved on. I was
thinking that the movie, I'm like, go to France. Just live in France. Michael's not going to find you in France. He's not going to get on a plane. You know, he's not going to get window seat, fly for 11 hours, and then kill you in France.
That's her thing, though. Well, yeah, I don't see how he could get a plane ticket, but...
I mean, he can get on a cargo boat, assume he knows where it's going.
Jason takes Manhattan. Michael takes France. But that's the thing, though, is she thinks Michael's obsessed with her and that he's going to come back and go for her, but that's just not the case. But she doesn't know that. But anyways, regardless, yeah, so now let's get into final thoughts and any character analysis you want to do. I mean, we have anything you want to talk about. We kind of talked about whether we want a sequel, where do they go from here, and all of that, all in that kind of discussion there. So yeah, what do you got left to talk about? And we'll get into final stuff.
Just about everything. I would say that we didn't cover I don't think we covered the window shot with Laurie staying outside the window of the classroom.
Yeah, that was a good callback, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I think as far as character analysis, that's about it. I'll have more to say in the sequel thing when we get to scores. because those 2 points are tied very heavily together. But as far as characters and events in the movie, that's about all I got.
Okay, so you want to wrap up and give scores?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first then.
Sure.
To me, the best parts of this movie are not something that could be replicated easily. The best part of this movie is bar none the subversion. It's the role reversal. That is the coolest part of this movie. When Laurie's in the background, there's a light and she talks shit, and then you see her face and she's in the shadows, and then Michael's like, fuck, and like that's the great stuff of this movie.
Right.
You're not gonna pull that off again. Unless the next movie is just about Michael Myers babysitting 2 kids and Laurie breaks into the house. And yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So I give this movie a solid B. I was actually hoping it would be a little bit, not hoping, I thought it would be better. I had fairly neutral expectations on this film. A lot of the stuff I don't like is stuff we never even talked about. The first 40 minutes, we focused a lot on Laurie's character, but there was just a lot of like, when I saw like Allison in the school hallway talking to her friends, I was screaming internally. I'm like, oh no, like this is flashbacks of H2O hardcore. That is exactly what I didn't want. And the first, like I said, until Michael gets to the neighborhood, it was very much a waiting game for this movie. But I still give it a B because the viewing experience is important. It's not the final authority on the score. It's a very big aspect of the panel that determines that. But there's a lot of good ideas, and there's a lot of really good just proper handling of Michael. There's new stuff which I didn't expect. They did a lot of new things I did not see coming. The role reversal was fantastic, which I feel dumb for not seeing that coming. But like Laurie falling through the balcony and landing in the grass and then not being in the grass. I don't know why I was surprised about that. The whole point of the trailer is that she's going to take on Michael and she's ready. So, but yeah, it was very good. I like pretty much all the characters in the final act. I still think Karen was a wet blanket, and every time she was on screen, I was just waiting for her to be off screen. Didn't like that character. I didn't like Cameron. I didn't like Cameron's friend. I gotta make sure her name is actually Allison. Why I keep saying this?
You told
Allison
me this entire time that it's Allison.
I'm sure it is, but I can't remember if that's the name I told you though. So now everything's falling apart.
You said Allison.
It is Allison. Allison with a Y. So yeah, yeah, Allison was great. I thought she was a fantastic character.
I was about to say, if you told me the wrong name in this entire review, because I've already gotten like
we're starting over.
I already remember, like I already know I called David Gordon Green like Jason Gordon Green and like all the previous times we've talked about this movie. So
it's like a fusion of Jason.
It was either the wrong name or it was just it was either the wrong name or it was the other guy the entire time I've referred to him until now.
It's a new movie, you know. We don't have the benefit of seeing this 10 years ago, so yeah, overall just a lot of great ideas. I didn't love watching a lot of it. A lot of this movie, I'll just be super honest, was me waiting for things to happen, which is fine. In horror, that's fine. The Laurie stuff was rather unpleasant. I think you could make, an argumentative case for all of it, but it did, like, seeing Laurie being alcoholic at an awkward family dinner, I could have done without a lot of that stuff. Also, this is a philosophical difference. I would not have had the movie setup be that they caught Michael and he escapes again 20 years later. I would have liked it a lot better if they just never found him. And Laurie goes crazy and builds a fucking fortress house because she doesn't know where Michael is and she spends the rest of her life preparing for that. That makes the whole house would have made much more sense. The moving kitchen island would have made so much more sense if they never actually caught Michael. It's like, okay, that's why she did it, and that's why she didn't go to France. It's because she does want to kill him. She does want to be ready.
I see that, but at the same time, then you'd have to explain why 40 years later does he just randomly start killing again? Why wait 40 years? At least when he's locked up for all that time, then it's like, okay, he started killing again because it's his first opportunity. Like, he doesn't seem like the character that just waits 40 years randomly and like, I don't know. I
have an answer for that, but you're not going to like it. The answer is insert Lovecraftian mystery. That's my answer to that. So, yeah, well, to be fair, I wouldn't say Michael Myers is built out to be a supernatural character in the first one. Not really until the second one. That's what it's really hard to justify a non-supernatural explanation for this character. But in the first one, you can get by. I don't know, but there could be an interesting answer to that doesn't involve Cthulhu. I don't know.
I mean, he's in this one in the original. He's not supernatural. He's only supernatural with his strength, which it's not in this movie. It's not as crazy as it has been in the series. Like he's
he
not
got hit by a car too, though.
right. Well, no, I know there was a second part to that. It's his strength and his durability. Like he just shrugs off pain. I get that. He's definitely supernatural in that sense, but it's not the supernatural sense where he's teleporting all over the place. This movie did a great job, and the original was the same, at explaining how he gets from A, B, C, D. Like there's continuity throughout his movement throughout the neighborhood that doesn't have him like, okay, now he's here. Now all of a sudden he's like, I think it was Halloween 4 that was one of the biggest offenders of that, where he's just like, he had gone like 5 complete opposite sides of the town in a matter of like 20 minutes somehow. Like he was everywhere in that film, and I never understood how. It's like I like in this one and in the original, it's all pretty close in proximity with each other. It's just neighborhoods, and he's just wandering. So yeah, it's coincidental that he comes across some of the people that he does, like the characters we're following, but that's why we're following him, because they're the ones that he interacts with. So I don't know, but he's not supernatural that he's like randomly, haha, you just saw me outside and now I am in the closet somehow. Like he's stealthy, he's durable, and he's straight. He has crazy strength, and I would say the strength can be pretty realistically just, you can pass that off. Like
yeah, there's a lot of fight or flight logic there, adrenaline and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's just crazy strength. I mean, there's people that do exist that just have like freakishly good, like crazy strength. Maybe it's dialed up to 11 here, but it's not supernatural levels. His durability absolutely is. I mean, that's the character. So, but yeah,
it's the cliche of the soccer mom being able to lift a car to protect her child in a high adrenaline mode. There's real science behind it,
and even his durability, technically, I mean, it's definitely, once I said, it's pushing boundaries. But I mean, we've seen people like hyped up on cocaine that can just completely take like a gunshot and they keep running just fine. So he gets hit by the car, which actually does knock him out. So that one actually, he is down for a while on that one. And then his finger shot off. He gets sliced by the knife, and he gets hit upside the head with the crowbar, which I just envision him as the type of character that he just does not feel pain. For whatever reason, he just does not feel pain. He, like his nerves are dead, or he doesn't register pain whatsoever. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if that exists in our world, where there's somebody that just does not feel pain so they can shrug off something like that. It still damages their body. It's not like he's invulnerable to getting hurt, or like his body from being damaged, because clearly he's damaged. It's just, I don't think his brain does not register any of that. That's why he's able to just shrug it off.
That's a real phenomenon. Well, it's not so much they don't experience the pain; they just don't have the I guess the autoimmune reaction that other people have to pain. Because when you have pain, the pain doesn't exist in a vacuum. Your heart rate increases. You have an emotional response to it. That's the stuff that's missing. I'm sure he feels the literal pain, but he just doesn't have the physiological response to the pain that everyone else does.
Right. So, anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think they tried to ground this Michael Myers much more in a reality setting as much as he can. Obviously, he's got to have a little bit of stretching going on, of course. That's the character, but they definitely tried to dial him back to the first one, which in itself wasn't super crazy supernatural either. He took the gunshots and got away, but that's where the mystery kicks in, is how did he survive that? There definitely is a little bit of that here. And if he makes it out of the burning, basement, that's the big question. How did he get out? He either found a different way, or he really is truly supernatural. But that's where it leaves off to however the hell they want to explain that. But did you have more to say on your closing, or do you want me to go and then we can interplay a little bit? Or
I guess the best compliment I can give this movie is it felt like a Coen's brother film. Like that's, I think, the kind of subtlety it has with the humor and the characters. And David McBride's always been talented. I generally like most of the stuff he does. not much more to say. I just, and the biggest criticism I can give this movie, on top of the biggest praise I can give it, is that I'm probably not going to be rewatching it anytime soon. And that's an unfortunate criticism I give most of the Halloweens. I'm already not the biggest slasher guy by itself, but I think the viewability of this movie was not as strong as it could have been, in my opinion. But it's a perfectly fine movie. It's a B. If you like Halloween, you should go see this movie.
All right. I'll say the two scores. I was dancing back and forth as I was watching it. I was even thinking like, okay, right now, if I, if, from what I've seen so far, it's a B plus or a B or what. I danced around a bit. Ultimately, all said and done, wrapped up into a bow. And as I gave it more thought and thought about it in the car, discussed it, even our conversations as we dive deeper, it's kind of fluctuated where I was going to score it. And I've really been down between a B plus and an A minus. I'm settling on A minus, which just for everybody's knowledge sake, I think I rated the original an A. So this isn't better than the original to me, but it's as close to I think it's as close to the original as the series has ever come, and I think they danced around those lines. I disagree in the sense, or not really disagree, but for me, I think it does have rewatchability. This is something that I envision watching multiple times in the future. I already want to watch it again personally, just to catch the details I didn't catch the first go around, because it's one, I didn't have the best viewing experience in the sense of the theater and just all the noise and everything around me distracting me. I like when I watch this type of film, especially if I'm going to review it and really dive deep into discuss it, I want to watch this by myself on my computer or whatever and just be there alone to kind of take it all in, and really kind of catch the things that I probably missed. So, and I really did enjoy this movie. I did not have the same experience you did where you said most of it's just kind of waiting for certain things to happen. I felt a little bit of that because I wanted to get to I felt a little bit early on like, man, I can't wait to get to where he's going around the neighborhood and stuff, like classic Michael Myers. But I thought they gave us enough along the way to keep me hooked. Like, I never really felt truly bored. There was a couple moments where it's like, okay, what's next? But it's like, I thought the scenes of him, like I said, before he gets to the neighborhood, there's some great stuff there. There was the opening before the credits. There was him getting his mask and coveralls, which I thought that scene was fantastic. Multiple parts of that scene were great. And, yeah, and there's just all that stuff in between. But then the next thing we know, and there's the bus crash scene, which, once again, I like that scene. So all the scenes, like all the major scenes leading up to before he even gets to the neighborhood, I really liked him. Like, I honestly, and that's really going to be the hardest part to get through on this movie, because that's the part that takes the longest, is to get to what you really want. I thought they did a good enough to keep me hooked. The scenes, like I said, at the bathroom, at the bus crash, and the prelude stuff, all good stuff. So I really enjoyed that. I loved the twist with the doctor, like I said. I liked how they portrayed Laurie. I liked that they wrapped it all up in the end and like justified her. Like, she isn't this crazy lady. She was right all along. Even if it wasn't Michael coming for her directly, that happened, and they were all better off for it, because if she didn't do all the things she did, they'd all be dead in that case, most likely, and her daughter would have died, and her granddaughter, and she would have definitely never would have been able to live that one down. So I liked all that. I like how they portrayed her much more badass and Sarah Connor like. Her daughter Karen didn't grate on me as much as it sounded like she did you. The wet blanket factor, there's a little bit of that going on, but I just thought they were a nice family, and I could understand where she was coming from. She's not the one that lived through all that trauma. If anything, she was probably wondering that entire time growing up, why are you making me do this? Why are you making me fight this? Why are you making me train? Why are you being so hard on me? And it's like, she didn't understand where Laurie was coming from because she didn't have to live through it. And I think leaving this film, where we leave off, she understands now. And I think their bond is going to be so much better. And you're leaving these characters way better off than they were prior. And I think that's what works so much, is because when you leave Halloween 1, you're leaving Laurie off way worse than what she started off. And this one, it's the reverse. A lot of this is reverse. You talk about role reversal. Laurie and her daughter and her granddaughter are now going to be, well, other than the dead husband, but casualties of war. And then
it just happens. Sometimes you lose a
Sure.
husband. It's just.
But you know what I mean?
sometimes
Like as
gotta
a
come
bond with each other, and their relationship is definitely going to be greater coming out of this, because now they've all been through it, and they're all going to understand now what they've been through and have a better, greater understanding and respect there because of it. So I think they really vindicated Laurie in the end, which I thought was. I love that Laurie's the new Loomis. Like, she really is the new Loomis in the sense that she was the one obsessed with Michael Myers this time. She was the one that was warning everybody in town and trying to get the sheriff to, or not the sheriff, but just in general, warning all the kids, all the people, warning her daughter, warning her granddaughter. She was the one that's like, you cannot sleep on this. You cannot, just brush this off. We need to take this seriously. I love that aspect about it. So I like that she was Loomis. I didn't see that coming. And I think if she wants to stay on with the franchise as the Loomis, that works. I mean, you don't need to center the next movie on Laurie's family. It could just be Michael's terrorizing other people in the town now, and Laurie's going to arrive to be the Loomis in a sense. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis could easily do that. Now, whether she wants to or not, that's up to her. But I think there's something cool about she is the badass that wants to see Michael Myers put down, like obsessed with it more than anybody else. She is the one that wants to protect people and knows truly what Michael is. So I like that. I love so many of the shots. We talked about them throughout the review and discussion. So many of the shots were fantastic. There was so many great shots that for the first time, I actually think they rival the originals in just the way they were done. I know they had John Carpenter. I've seen several shots in behind the scenes where he was sitting with the director as shots were being done. So I can't imagine what, role he played in setting those up as well. And obviously hats off to David Gordon Green for writing and directing. And I just thought the dialogue, the characters, none of the characters really grated on me, not like the Rob Zombie films. There was nothing offensive in here. I thought there was great teases. I thought there was great characters, likable characters, like we talked about with the babysitter, the little kid. Just from top to bottom, I really, really did enjoy this film. Like I said, I think it stands up to the original, and they gave me faith, and I just hope they don't screw it up going forward. Because, we're getting another sequel, so I hope to God they take all that money, however much they have to, and if they have a story to tell, get the right people to tell it, and I think those are the people that did this one. So that's what I want to see. I want to see a trilogy done by the same people that have proven it, that respect John Carpenter's work, that know what that work is. Like Rob Zombie claimed to, I don't know. I've seen that so many times where, like I've said before, where they claim to be a super big fan and then they just completely miss the mark when it's all said and done. They got Michael right. This is the best Michael's been since the original, in my opinion, hands down. This is the best Laurie's been since the original, hands down. And so that pretty much wraps it up for me. Score was great. Everything was great. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on where they go from here. I was really hesitant to look too far into interviews because I didn't want to get spoiled these last few days. I was very dodgy on what I would look at, but now I'm going to be like a hawk trying to find out what's next, hoping that they get the writers back and the director back, because that's ultimately what's going to make this work. And I wouldn't want to see it any other way. Will I go watch it, even if it's not them? Probably, but it really depends on the trailer. If it looks like garbage, I'm not going to give my money to it. But damn, does this movie deserve to be successful, and I just hope they use that successful wisely. A-, you gave it a B. That averages out to B+, B+, yeah. Which I think comes out to the second highest we've rated any of these films. So, and we'll go over that when we get into retrospective, which we will do, and We'll kind of go through what our average scores were for all of the films. We'll talk about all the films again in a sense of just wrapping a nice little bow on the series. But that does it for this review and this discussion on the new Halloween. I am curious to see what you guys thought. Do you have any more thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, that
anything?
pretty much covers it. Most of the main things I wanted to cover were the sequel points and the Michael stuff, and just how well they did the neighborhood. Just the subversion, the role reversal. That stuff was by far my favorite. But no, nothing else other than that.
And I honestly think this is probably my favorite look of Michael Myers yet. I can honestly say maybe. I mean, these types of things, you got to let it settle for a while. Maybe a year or two down the line, you can really make that call because obviously it's so fresh. But for me, I really dug the older Michael look, even with him unmasked, like you had said. I thought that was done really well. And I loved his mask, and I loved the coveralls and the whole getup. Thought he looked good.
Agreed.
And a lot of that's lighting and shots and all that, and they did good stuff. So on that note, thanks everyone for tuning in. Once again, let us know in the comments below what you thought of the film, what you would rate it, and just anything you agree with that we said, any disagreements of anything either of us said. Just give us your thoughts, and we're curious to see what you guys think and where you want to see it go from here. Anything you've heard. There's been some great comments left in our previous reviews of things that I didn't even know about that you guys mentioned. So like behind the scenes stuff or just information mentioned in interviews. So if you guys got any of that on this film or where they're going, I'd love to hear it. And thanks everyone for tuning in to the series. And like I said, we'll have a nice little retrospective, wrapping things up in a bow. See you guys later.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Take care, everybody.
6 times! Oh yeah, 2 things I forgot to mention. I knew I was going to forget something. So, Michael's coveralls, I own the same brand, the same coveralls that he wears in the movie. They're fire resistant. Huh. And the second thing is, did you notice the 3 little kids that Laurie yells to go home when they're trick-or-treating? They're all wearing the silver shamrock mask. One a pumpkin, one the witch, and one soul. So, little cool tidbit there. Anyways, 6 times. You get it.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother.